Good evening, everyone, and we want to welcome you to the February 11th regular school board meeting, Spotsylvania County. We have all school board members present, and we have a quorum. Before us, we have our agenda. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Meyer and seconded by Ms. Shelley. Any unreadiness or any discussion? We'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 7-0. Closed meeting items. That it be resolved that the board conduct a closed meeting for the following purposes: consideration of candidates for employment, assignment, promotion, demotion, and discipline of employees, or resignation of employees who have a contractual commitment to the board as permitted by 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia. We have a motion. Motion by Mr. Twigg.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blaine. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we are now in closed session, 7-0.
Second.
Second by Ms. Shelley, properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we're back in open session, 7-0. Certification of the closed meeting. Whereas the Spotsylvania County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this board, school board, that such a closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Spotsylvania County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under this chapter, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting. We have a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Blaine, seconded by Ms. Gramp. We'll start with Ms. Gramp. Roll call vote.
Gramp, aye.
Blaine, aye. Twig, aye.
Phelps, aye.
Meyer, aye.
Shelley, aye.
Braswell, aye. Certification, meeting is certified 7-0. Items from closed meeting, Dr. Martin.
Motion is that the school board accepts the recommendation of the superintendent for personnel appointments, assignments, transfers, resignations, retirements, and the request for extended leave of absence for the remainder of the 2019 school year as presented in closed meeting and permitted by Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Dr. Martin and Dr. Meyer for the motion. Have a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Shelley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 7-0. We now move to 6.01. We are in recess. Good evening, everyone. We want to thank you for staying with us from the recess. We're going to resume our school board meeting for the 11th of February. Before we begin, I'd like to take the opportunity to acknowledge our chairman of our Spotsylvania County Board of Supervisors, Mr. Paul Trampy. If we could give him a warm round of applause. And we have all members present. If the assembly would please stand as PAC 835 will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
And we're going to welcome Jaden, Aiden, Cullen, and Jack from PAC 835, and they will lead us in the pledge this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, PAC 835. Let's give them a round of applause. There is no public hearing this evening, and so we will move on to the consent agenda items. Dr. Martin.
Good evening. On the consent agenda this evening are the minutes of the January 16th, 2019 regular meeting and the January 28th, 2019 special meeting. Donations which are usual and customary, and budget amendment number 11. Category budget amendment between instruction budget category and technology budget category for student technology / instructional purchases in the amount of $39,788.27. Staff asks that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Dr. Meyer, seconded by Ms. Gramp. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 7-0. Items for informational purposes are listed on the agenda for your perusal. We'll move on to 11.01, instructional highlights, Steelcase Active Learning Classroom. Ms. Flanard.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Baker and Dr. Martin. This evening we have Nye River Middle School, and they will be presenting and highlighting our Steelcase Active Learning Classroom that was supported by grant funds, focusing on the use of flexible furniture to enhance instruction and student collaboration. The furniture incorporates opportunities for students to engage with materials, participate in class, and work together, which enhances both the learning experience and the outcomes. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Feely, and I am here to talk about the Active Learning Center that Nye Middle School was awarded from Steelcase Education. A couple things that we focused on was mainly engagement of the students, as well as the students taking more ownership in their learning, and we really strive to achieve more of our 21st century learning skills. So as you can see from some of the research there, the top bar was the pre-install, and then the bottom bar is the survey that the students took after the installment, after they've been in the classroom for a good while. So you can see we had a lot of growth in motivation to learn, and on the slide we had a big growth in connecting with others. We saw the most growth, though, with communicating work ideas as well as collaboration, and those are two things we've really grown in within our classroom. Our students sit at big tables and are encouraged to talk with each other. It's not them isolated on an island. It is really working together, sharing ideas, coming up with answers like it is in the workforce. Here's a snapshot of some of our classes. So the first one, A4 and A5, are our 7th grade. Those were inclusion classes. And then the other ones, A1, A2, and A6, those were our 8th grade classes. Our first class, A1, was a self-contained push-in. So students who were in a self-contained classroom the previous year were actually in our inclusion class, and you can see that they were just as successful as our other inclusion classes, and even a little bit successful compared to our gen ed class. So they were keeping right up with the rest of the students. So there's a picture of the room layout. We move the tables a lot. They are on wheels. So we have a lot of flexible seating, a lot of groups. Like I said, the tables are really large, so it allows the kids to move about and work together. We definitely don't have rows. And there are supplies at every table, so that way the students have everything that they need. They don't have to ask for pencils. It's all right there for them, so that way they can continue to learn. Here's some more pictures of the students. So there is, we do have a couch in the room, which a lot of the students like to work from. You'll see a student in the background is standing while she's working. We have students gathered around a little table there. We have the buoys. A lot of our students love the buoys. They're able to sit there and just sort of rock and sway as they're working. It helps them stay more engaged. And we do have a lot of students who like to stand, which is what you see in that other picture there. They also, like I said, love to sit on that couch. And the tables move a lot, so here's a different layout that we've had in the room. We were playing a game this day, so we like to do a lot of hands-on, a lot of engagement, just to keep the kids involved in what we're learning. We do incorporate a lot of technology within our classroom. We are lucky enough to be a one-to-one classroom, so we do a lot of blended learning. We do a lot of activities that involve our staff. As you can see from the picture there, they were doing a QR code hunt. We've been doing a lot with lock boxes and station work, as well as games. We've really noticed that our students enjoy recording each other, and we've really found that to be a great way to keep them engaged. The more they're able to talk about the math, the more they're actually understanding the math. So we have them record videos a lot, which is what those pictures are showing there. Any questions about the Active Learning Center?
Thank you. Do we have any board members that have any questions or comments? Dr. Meyer.
I find it very interesting because when you look at the profile of a graduate, which emphasizes communication and collaboration, that you're creating the environment where the students can actually practice it and work together rather than just individually.
Yeah.
Good job.
I will say we had the opportunity to go to Steelcase's headquarters in Michigan, and it was really eye-opening for us to see as an actual corporation. They don't have desks, they have couches and tables, and they're really about the collaboration communication. So we really tried after we saw that to incorporate that more. So I appreciate you taking note of that.
Ms. Shelley.
Do you have other schools or teachers coming in to observe what you guys are doing in the classroom so that even though it's not going to be the Steelcase classroom per se, they can still take that collaborative learning back with them?
Yes. So we've actually had teachers and administrators within the county, as well as outside counties, come in to view what we're doing. We've also held, like at LLE, we presented on how to incorporate these instructional strategies without the fancy furniture, which is very possible. So we are really trying to get more teachers on board on getting the kids engaged and active in the classroom, because we've really seen a lot of growth from it, a lot of success. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Mr. Blaine.
I'm curious what the major handicap is that you found you had to adjust to. And secondly, what do you feel is the major advantage to the equipment that you're now using?
There wasn't really, as you said, a handicap for us to use this classroom. I've actually not been using desks for rows or station for a long time. I've always had tables in my classroom because I really feel it's important to collaborate and communicate. That's always been a big thing for me. So when we were awarded the Steelcase grant, it's very easy for us to implement. What was the second part of your question?
What is the major advantage you see in that?
The kids' confidence is a big thing that we've noticed. Having them more active in the learning, they're feeling more successful, they're being able to answer the questions, they're more willing to help other students. We have also noticed that as well, that the kids are a lot nicer to each other because we're really focusing on collaborating and communicating positively towards one another.
And do you find that your students are kind of advertising for you because of the experience they have?
Definitely, yes. They wish that some of their other classrooms had the same feel that ours does.
Oh, good.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Ms. Shelley, please.
I'm going to brag.
Okay.
So I used to teach with Miss Feely and Mrs. Oswald, who team teach, and they're an amazing team with special ed and general ed collaborating together, and they've been doing it for a while. So I think putting them in this Steelcase position, being able to do that, and then I think that had a lot with you two working so well together, getting the grant a couple years ago. But I just wanted to kind of brag on these teachers that are doing this program.
Thank you, Mr. Shelley.
Anyone else? I'd like to share with you that when I was watching the slides and the environment in which the kids were learning it, when I was a kid doing my homework, it reminded me of sitting on the couch and doing my homework, or sitting in a place where I felt comfortable. When I watched my son go through and matriculate through high school, he kind of found positions like that, and I just find it interesting that the environment is really conducive to learning. So, can you talk to that that piece of this wonderful program?
Thank you. Yeah, students are super comfortable in our classroom, which I feel like in math allows them to be more free to make mistakes and not feel so guarded if they get it wrong. They're like I said, their confidence is a lot higher, and I think the environment leads to that.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to recognitions. Recognitions and awards, starting with 12.01, Visual Arts Award recognition. Ms. Flenard.
Thank you, Mr. Braswell. We are celebrating the outstanding student artwork from 6 of our schools. This month, we are showing artwork from Cedar Forest Elementary, art teacher Sarah Ramey, Chancellor Elementary, art teacher Caitlin LaFaro, Livingston Elementary, art teachers Natalie Ruffin, Thornburg Middle, art teacher Letitia McMillan, Post Oak Middle School, art teacher Casey Branham, and Massaponax High School, art teacher Elizabeth Carter Corbin. And these students were recognized and received certificates of appreciation at a reception that was held in their honor prior to this meeting.
Next, 12.02, Superintendent's Art Award. Ms. Flenard.
The February Superintendent's Art Award winner for Outstanding Visual Art goes to Leah Miller. Miss Miller is a 3rd grade student at Smith Station Elementary School. Her artwork will hang in Dr. Baker's office this month. We would like to thank Miss Miller and her art teacher, Chelsea Rogers, if Chelsea's here, there she is, to come forward and be recognized for their outstanding accomplishment. And if we have any family of Leah Millers, could they please stand to be recognized to support this young artist? There you go.
Continuing with 12.03, Scholastic Art Awards, Ms. Flenard.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. The Scholastic Art Awards is a 95-year-old national art competition that lets students compete with others in their region and then with other students nationally. The program fosters creativity and provides a platform for young people to gain recognition and compete for scholarship funds. All students in grades 7 through 12 are eligible. And we are excited that 5 of our students won, and they are as follows. If you could please come forward. From Chancellor High School, Olivia Blizzard, Art 2, 11th grade, and our art teacher is Miss Houston, who also won honorable mention. We also have Kate Bear, Art 3, 12th grade, art teacher Miss Chandler, won a silver key. Slide this way. We also have us with this evening, we have Mortimer Cameron, Art 4, 12th grade art teacher. Miss Corbin won a silver key. Avery Haynes, Art 3, 10th grade art teacher. Miss Chandler won an honorable mention. We also have Caroline Patton, AP Art, 12th grade art teacher. Miss Corbin won 2 honorable mentions. And if we have any family and friends that were here to support our young artists, if they could please stand to be recognized.
Continuing on 12.04, National Hockey Day on the Hill.
Thank you. We are pleased to share that on February 5th, 2019, Kathy Moore, STEM teacher at Thornburg Middle School, was selected to be the featured teacher at the National Hockey Day on the Hill event. Ms. Moore provided an educator's perspective to legislators and community leaders on how to effectively teach STEM. While she was presenting, her students were taken on a tour of the Capitol. After her speaking engagement, Ms. Moore joined her students and they participated in an interactive future goals demonstration in the Rayburn Foyer with Washington Capitals players, NHL alumni including Pat Fontaine and Willie O'Ree, and mascots from Philadelphia Gritty, from New Jersey, the New Jersey Devil, and from Washington Capitals Slapshot. Ms. Moore, congratulations on being selected for this distinct honor, and thank you for your commitment and your dedication to provide innovative learning opportunities to our students. Thank you.
It is my pleasure this time to present the ASBO Meritorious Budget Award. Since 2010, the American Association of School Business Officials International is pleased to announce that Spotsylvania County Public Schools is being recognized for its Meritorious Budget Award. The financial leadership team has been receiving the ASBO MBA Award for the 2018-2019 annual budget. The Meritorious Budget Award program promotes and recognizes excellence in the school budget presentation and enhances the school division's skills in developing, analyzing, and presenting the school system budget. After review by professional auditors, the award is conferred only on school divisions that have met or exceeded the program's stringent criteria. This award represents significant achievement by Spotsylvania County Public Schools and reflects the commitment by the finance staff, school and department bookkeepers, as well as school and department administrators to achieve the highest standards of school budgeting. The following staff people, please come forward and be recognized for your contribution in these areas. Ms. LaShawn Gaines, Chief Financial Officer. Philip Trayer, Director of Finance. Rick Lauterbach, IT Programmer. Bridget Smith Hurd, Accounting Manager. Melissa Rhodes, Payroll Manager. Jamie Carter, Purchasing Manager. Tatiana Koistra, Program Analyst. Joy Walton, Senior Financial Analyst. And Melissa Webster, Administrative Assistant. Congratulations again to the finance leadership team. A job well done. Next will be the recognition of school board members. Dr. Baker.
Good evening, school board members. It is my honor to share with you that the Virginia School Boards Association has designated February, as many of you know, as School Board Appreciation Month. At tonight's meeting, the school board members are being recognized for your hard work and the crucial role you play in our schools and in our community. Your actions and decisions affect the present and future lives of our children. Board members, we know that you devote countless hours to help ensure a quality education that will lead our schools to success. This evening, board members are receiving a certificate of recognition from the Virginia School Boards Association. And also this evening, several board members are being recognized for their participation in the Virginia School Board Association's Academy sessions, as well as through governance and service activities. This recognition is based on a member's level of participation over a 2-year period. I just want to, again, share not only with the community that's here and watching, but also with each school board member and as a collective group. We cannot do what we do without you. We cannot make the positive difference without your individual and collective support and ideas and passion, and we thank you for that. And it's often a thankless, low-paying job. So I thank you, Superintendent, but I know many of our staff and community join me in saying thank you, and we appreciate your service.
Dr. Baker, thank you. Want to take this opportunity to recognize our clerk and deputy clerk. The Virginia School Boards Association has designated the week of February 18 through 22nd, 2019 as Board Clerk Appreciation Week. At tonight's meeting, we are honored to recognize our school board clerk, Dr. Dennis Martin, and the deputy clerk, which was brought to my attention, has worked for us for 20 years in her capacity as the deputy clerk, Ms. Patricia Bowler, for their role in assisting the school board members, the superintendent, and the school division. Let's give them a round of applause. We'll move on to 13.01, public comments. Dr. Martin.
The public comment segment of our board meetings is a time to receive recommendations, suggestions, concerns, and comments from the general public. Each speaker is allotted 5 minutes, and we ask that they clearly state their name, address, and/or voting district for the board. A speaker may request additional time from the board should one's 5-minute allotment expire. We ask that you keep your comments focused on the issues and that all speakers maintain a level of decorum and mutual respect for one another. Our first group of speakers is Sandy Anzarelli, Caroline Taylor, and Sean Hudson.
Good evening. I'm Sandy Azzarelli. I live at 11703 Brompton Court in the Salem District. Chair Braswell, school board members, Dr. Baker, and Dr. Martin, good evening. My name, like I said, is Sandy Azzarelli, and I brought with me Caroline Taylor. We're both third grade teachers at Chancellor Elementary School, and we would like to share our thoughts of why we support Dr. Baker's budget proposal from two different points of view. The view from a veteran teacher of 31 years and a brand new teacher. Each year, teachers are given more to do, but with less money and support. But we do it every day. For 31 years, I have been the one who feeds the student who comes to school hungry and has no snack. I'm the one that comforts the student who is sad because there's some sort of death or emergency in the family. I'm the one that listens to the student who's upset because of something going on at home or on the bus. I'm the one who loves the student who's being neglected or feels alone or unloved. I'm the one that reassures the student that doesn't know why they were leaving to go to a different school in the middle of the year. I'm the one that supplies the student with all the tools they need to work and learn. I'm the one that motivates them and rewards the student who needs to be reminded to keep trying their best each and every single day. I'm also the one who calms the student down after an emotional outburst. I'm the one that shelters the student from intruders, fires, bad weather, bullies, etc. I'm also the one that provides the extra help needed after school to ensure the understanding of the required concepts. I'm also the one that's always searching for grants and funds to provide out of the school experiences like field trips or even technology devices that are used in my classroom. I'm the one that spends my own money to provide an inviting and exciting classroom where kids want to come to learn every day. I'm also the one that integrates students into an unfamiliar environment while learning to speak a new language. And last, I'm the one who teaches the curriculum by providing exciting and engaging lessons for all the learners. I can't continue to do this alone, and I know that many teachers would agree with me when I say we need more resources and more support to give our students the best education that they deserve. The support that Dr. Baker is asking for is exactly what we need. Please remember that teachers are valuable treasures that we should not lose, especially to surrounding counties. It makes me sad to hear that we are losing so many good teachers within the first 5 years of teaching. Please remember that our children's education is one of the best investments we can make.
Hi, like Sandy said, I'm Caroline Taylor. I live at 4102 Westmoreland Circle, and I vote at Parkside. I would just like to take a minute to kind of second all that Sandy said, but from a different perspective, and that is this perspective of a brand new teacher. And I think it's a perspective that sometimes gets forgotten and sometimes gets left out, but I do think it is important to hear. I'm on my own for the first time. I'm out in the world, and I, like a lot of people, have struggled to kind of find a balance in the classroom and out. For the first time, I am responsible for all of my own expenses, not to mention the expense of setting up a new classroom that's going to be complete with all the tools that my students need to be comfortable and to learn the way that they deserve to. And I should also take a moment to mention that I'm in a really fortunate financial position. I don't have student loans. I don't have car payments, things that a lot of our brand new teachers do have and are responsible for while they're doing all the things that I am doing. In my job search, I was offered a lot more money by all of our surrounding counties. I did come to Spotsylvania because I believed in this county, and it's where I wanted to be for personal reasons, and it just felt like a really good fit for me. But I feel like we are losing a lot of really great teachers to our surrounding counties that are offering more money. A higher starting salary does mean that we're getting the best candidates coming here, which is what our kids really deserve. Ultimately, my students are the ones who are negatively impacted. This year, there have been a lot of times where I've wanted to provide things for my students that I haven't been able to simply because there's not money in my account to do so. It affects what I'm able to do in my room versus what maybe a person who does have a higher income is able to do in their room with their kids. For example, someone in a dual income household who is making more money or who's been in the profession longer. I really believe that you should support this budget because it's ultimately about supporting your teachers, and it's about new and experienced teachers. And more importantly, it's about supporting our students so that they have access to all the wonderful resources that are out there, so that they can grow and learn in our county.
Now it appears they left me no time for my portion. May I have 30 seconds? School board members, you have to vote.
A motion.
Ms. Phelps makes a motion, second by Ms. Shelley. Roll call vote, starting with Ms. Shelley.
Meyer, aye.
Phelps, aye.
Braswell, aye.
Twig eye. Blaine, aye.
Motion carries 7-0. You have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. School board members, Dr. Baker, Dr. Martin, I stand before you tonight. I just want to publicly thank Dr. Baker, your cabinet, and staff for presenting a budget that starts to restore and in some cases add additional resources for our students. I think that's wonderful, and I'm in full support of your budget. Next, I'd like to say to our school board members, I just want to thank you for what you do each and every day for our students. I know it's a lot of hard work, tireless work, but I just want you to know that your work does not go unnoticed. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, I just want to say or recommend, suggest that you do support Dr. Baker's budget with a unanimous vote. I believe that would show your commitment and unity to the students, the staff, and the division as a whole. And I believe anything less than a unanimous vote is going to send the wrong message to our Board of Supervisors as you work forward in this budget process. So once again, thank you for what you do each and every day. Thank you.
Aaron Hughes.
Hello, my name is Erin Hughes. I live at 10303 Northampton Lane in the Lee Hill District. I am a special education teacher, and I have the honor of working with this kindergarten team at Riverview Elementary School. We are here representing our amazing school, but we are also here as mothers of former and current students in Spotsylvania County Schools. This proposed budget takes care of children, our own children and the children we teach every day. With this support, we would be able to help meet the needs that we are now seeing in our classrooms. Children coming into kindergarten are not like the children we saw coming in 10 years ago. In our kindergarten classrooms, we see students that come in ready to learn, but sadly, many of our students are not prepared. They come hungry, tired, and many with a history of trauma. We are seeing students with significant social emotional needs who need our encouragement to simply get through the day. At Riverview, everyone works hard together to support our students. But unfortunately, the gap between what they need and what we can provide is expanding. We utilize great resources provided by the division, but the need is growing exponentially. This budget will allow additional teaching positions, support staff, social workers, and counselors to help narrow the gap. We believe every student can learn, and this budget enables us to better prepare our students to be the best possible learners. Thank you, Dr. Baker, for proposing a budget that focuses on the students. Please approve this budget unanimously. Thank you.
Mimi Dempsey.
Good evening. My name is Mimi Dempsey. I live at 536 Butternut Drive. I'm in the Battlefield District. Good evening, Dr. Baker, Dr. Martin, and school board members. I have lived in Spotsylvania County for 20 years. I raised my children here, And my youngest daughter graduated 2 years ago from Massaponax High School and had a wonderful experience there. I am now an ESOL teacher at both Spotswood Elementary and Battlefield Elementary School. I am here tonight to urge you to honor Dr. Baker's request to fill the 10 ESOL teacher positions. We need to reduce our class sizes and our group sizes so that our students can make language and academic growth, so that we can provide our students what they need. We need more time with our newly arrived students who continue to come to our schools. We need more time with all of our groups and our group numbers that have become large. I see 12 groups of students daily in 2 different schools. We need to be able to, with these 10 new teachers, we will be able to cluster our EL students or English language students in group sizes that would be their grade level, instead of having a 5th grader, 2 second graders, a 4th grader, and a 1st grader together, which I now have. We would be able to cluster them according to their levels. We would have more time to collaborate with our classroom teachers to help them do their jobs better. These 10 teachers will directly impact our language and overall academic growth with our students. When we increase their English language proficiency levels, they can pass their SOLs. I have the skills, the knowledge, the experience, the heart, and the desire to help our children succeed, but I do not have the time. So I'm asking you just once again to please honor Dr. Baker's request for the 10 ESOL teachers. Thank you very much.
Don Naper.
Good evening, Dawn Napper, Lee Hill District. Dr. Baker, I would like to start by saying thank you for presenting a needs-based budget. We have been cutting our budget for so long that the time has come where we need to start adding back positions and services that are much needed by our students and staff. Thank you for considering your whole staff deserving of a raise. My next remarks are to Ms. Phelps and Mr. Twigg. You kept saying the teachers in your comments last week. A school system is more than just teachers, and it is not just teachers who need a raise. I cannot do my job without everyone from our bus drivers to our administrators. We are all a team working for the good of our students, which is what you were also elected to do. You were not elected to this board to do your due diligence with regards to financing this budget. The only question you should ask is, will it benefit the students or the staff? If you have any problem with this budget, you should say it out loud so your constituents are aware of what your concerns are. Ms. Phelps, I am still awaiting an actual answer to the questions I emailed you. An email link to the meeting my questions were from is not an answer. Mr. Twigg, thank you for supporting the bands. They have needed it for a long time. And thank you, Dr. Baker, for that as well. The rest of the board, thank you for your continued support. I hope the vote tonight shows a united front and is unanimous.
Raymond Bell.
Chairman Braswell, Dr. Meyer, Superintendent Baker, Dr. Martin, members of the board. My name is Raymond Bell. I've been living in Spotsylvania County for 33 years. My present address is 11312 Stonewall Jackson Drive. I presently reside in the Livingston District for the last 21 years. I stand and rise right now in support of the superintendent's budget. I believe this budget is innovative, it's creative, more importantly, it's cutting edge. It illustrates the superintendent and his staff work very hard in making sure that our school division, our personnel, have the necessary resources to move forward in our society. I think it's very, very important that we keep one thing in mind. We cannot be reactionary. We must be proactive. My background, professionally, educationally, is coaching, education, leadership, and mental health. When I look at this budget, I see coaching. I see a time where people are being empowered, people are being equipped, from personnel all the way up to administration, where morale can stay high and not low, where our teachers and other personnel won't have to go to other counties to look for comparable salaries. I think it's vital for mental health purposes that our kids are in dire need to make sure we have full-time social workers and full-time mental health personnel to address their needs. If not, we failed them somehow. A writer once said, "A dream is realized when one who dreams dare see it through." Let's see this budget through. Let's work together. Thank you for your time.
Beth Crumpler.
Good evening. My name is Beth Crumpler. I am the ESOL coach for Spotsylvania County Public Schools. I used to be a resident for 7 years and former ESOL teacher at Chancellor High School. I'm here to share why I feel there is a need for the 10 additional ESOL teaching positions that Dr. Baker has proposed in his budget. As I know, you already have seen the data. We need these positions to support the growing number of Ls in our division, prepare Ls for success for their SOLs, better assist the diverse needs of our Ls, and help Ls with the post-high school readiness and opportunities. Our ESOL program is extremely dedicated to reaching the diverse needs of the English learners in our division. We have excellent ESOL teachers who care and provide good instruction, but spend countless hours each day trying to meet the needs of the service minutes in groups, pushing in and pulling out in classrooms. These hours have made it extremely difficult for ESOL teachers to be available to collaborate with classroom teachers in PLCs or planning, offer professional learning, provide family engagement, and be available to better support the additional content instruction of ELS. In fact, to help with this issue at Chancellor High School, I helped orchestrate the implementation of the Newcomers Club to facilitate peer tutors for our ELs because I could not do it for every student. While the Newcomers Club has provided an avenue for our ELs with tutoring assistance and a positive, welcoming environment, we have not been able to nearly cover all of the instructional support areas our ELs have desperately needed. The 10 ESOL instructional positions that Dr. Baker has proposed will further the service support and enhance the instruction of the diverse needs of our ELs by, first, enabling more service time ESOL teachers can spend instructing and advocating for them. Second, opening avenues of better SOL-aligned L instruction for them in content classrooms by freeing time for ESOL teachers to collaborate with other teachers. Third, supporting them with the home-to-school connection and providing further time ESOL teachers can reach out to families for school-based family engagement. Based on this, the 10 ESOL positions will build on the assets we currently provide, driving ELs forward to academic success and post-secondary readiness. And with this, I ask you to consider the 10 positions. Thank you, Dr. Baker, and thank you, School Board, for your time.
Marvin Silverstava.
I think you were expecting first a boy or a man, and my last name is not Latino, it's Indian, right? Good evening, Dr. Baker, Dr. Martin, and board members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak up in favor of the budget. My name is Marvin Srivastava, a voter in the Battlefield District. This is my 10th year working as an educator in the county, but it's my 5th year as an ESOL teacher. I I am currently teaching teaching ESOL at the Spotsylvania Elementary, and I love doing what I do. I think that there are two main reasons for why I am teaching ESOL. The first one is I am very passionate of working with many students that bring different cultures. They help me to have a better understanding of their needs in terms of different areas, from understanding how their native language is learned so I can better prepare my lessons, and also help teachers and understand that piece. Also understanding their cultures. And so they feel welcome, and they feel that we embrace their culture and we respect and value rather than the opposite. Another opportunity that I have, and I am also very passionate, is working with parents. I think parents is the key for educating our children. We had to become strong partners with them. So in a way to help parents, this year, the ESOL program opened an ESOL liaison position, and I am the person working in that position. It is a pleasure to work with parents. This year we have an ESOL parent, parents organization, a committee. And through that, we are trying to educate them to better help students. As an ESOL teacher, I play many roles in schools, from lesson planning to advocate, and also working with parents. In addition to that, I work with the students helping an after-school program. Right now, we have almost 60% of the students in the after-school program, and parents are coming to pick them up, so they are also involved. As the ESOL parent liaison for the county, I organized, as I mentioned, an ESOL parent advisory committee and facilitated a needs assessment. However, due to the workload, I feel that in that position I'm not able to support teachers in different schools. Also, at my school, I think that even though I work with my students every day, I am not able to support teachers on everyday basis, and that is necessary. So with the addition of the 10 ESOL positions, teachers will be able to provide support that allow our ELs become successful in our classroom. Our goal is that all the students achieve academic success. Thank you.
Leticia Vargas.
Buenas noches.
Good evening
A todos los del...
to all of you.
Ella es la señora Aida Kenneth y me va a interpretar.
She's Aida Ken, and she will be my interpreter.
Okay. Mi nombre es Leticia Vargas
Mi
y
nombre es Leticia Vargas. My name is Leticia Vargas.
yo vivo por 18 años en el condado de Spotsylvania.
I live for 18 years in the Spotsylvania County.
Mi dirección es 221 Old Greenwich Drive en Fredericksburg, Virginia.
My address is 221 Old Greenwich Drive, Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Soy madre de 3 hijos.
I am a mother of 3 children.
2 de ellos asisten a la primaria y mi tercer hijo está en la secundaria.
2 of them attend elementary school, and my third child attend middle school.
He estado involucrada en el grupo de ESOL desde el 2015.
I am being involved in the school since 2015.
Y estoy aquí para hablar a favor de la recomendación hecha por el Dr. Baker.
And I'm here to speak about in favor of Dr. Baker's recommendation.
Sobre la contratación de 10 maestras para ESOL para el próximo año escolar.
To the recommendation or to have 10 more ESOL position for the next school year.
Estoy muy agradecida por todo el apoyo que mis hijos reciben con el programa ESOL.
I am very thankful for all the support my children have received in the ESOL program.
Dos de ellos reciben el apoyo adicional en lectura en programa de apoyo después de la escuela.
2 of them receive additional support in reading in an after-school program.
También estoy muy agradecida con el apoyo que he recibido para el...
Aquí.
Sí, aquí por eso. También estoy agradecida por el apoyo que he recibido a través de los eventos de capacitación para padres.
I am also grateful for the support I have received through parent outreach events.
He participado en noches de información y alfabetización organizados por maestros de ESOL.
I have participated in information and literacy night events organized by ESOL teachers.
Gracias a su apoyo estoy muy involucrada en la educación de mis hijos.
Thanks to their support, I am very involved in their children's education.
Participo en las noches de conferencias para padres,
I participate in Parents Conference Night,
noches de currículo y otros eventos para adquirir habilidades y poder ayudar a mis hijos con sus tareas.
curriculum nights, and ESOL nights to gain skills to help my children with their homework to succeed in school.
Me complace mucho que la lengua nativa de mis hijos y su cultura sean valoradas.
I am very pleased that my children's native language and their culture is valued,
Respetadas y aceptadas en la escuela.
respected and embraced at school.
Ahora estoy aprendiendo inglés, pero la falta de habilidades en el idioma inglés no me ha impedido participar en la vida escolar de mis hijos.
I am learning English now, but my lack of English language skills have not stopped me from participating in my children's school life.
Quiero terminar diciendo que cada vez que vengo a la escuela me siento bienvenida y aceptada.
I want to end saying that whenever I come to school, I feel welcome and accepted.
Aprendí de primera mano lo importante que es para los padres de los estudiantes de inglés como segunda lengua con el apoyo de los maestros de ESOL, que no solo se trabaja con nuestros hijos, sino que también ayudan a los padres como yo.
I have learned firsthand how important it is for parents of English learners to have the support of ESOL teachers who not only work with our children, but also help parents like me.
Estoy agradecida con el condado de Spotsylvania por brindar apoyo en inglés a través de los maestros de ESOL.
I am grateful to Spotsylvania County for providing English support through ESOL teachers.
Al agregar 10 maestras de ESOL, mis hijos y todos los estudiantes del idioma del inglés se beneficiarán significativamente.
By adding 10 new ESOL teachers, my children and all English language learners will benefit significantly.
Porque las maestras les dedicarán más tiempo a los estudiantes.
Because the teacher could dedicate more time to their students.
Gracias por su tiempo y gracias por escuchar la petición.
Thank you for your time and thank you for the recommendation.
Taylor Mahaley.
Hello, my name is Taylor Mahaley. I live outside the county in Stafford, but I am a Spotsylvania County Public School employee. I work at Battlefield Elementary School. And I want to begin by saying that Spotsylvania County Public Schools is a wonderful place to work. I moved here in order to work for this school system. And I wanted to work here after interviewing with Christine Lynch Johnston and learning about how the county strives to support English language learners. Christine Lynch Johnston is able to provide us with materials to support our students and send us to conferences where we can learn new skills and strategies to support the students. But more is still needed for us to be able to fully support our kids. The number of ELL students in our county is steadily growing. With this comes an increase in workload. Teachers are spending increasing amounts of time lesson planning, analyzing data, conferencing with parents, collaborating with teachers, planning parent engagement, and preparing professional development for our schools. My school currently has 96 EL students, with only myself and a half-time teacher to service all of them. I teach 12 groups a day across different grade levels in different content areas and in different parts of the building. The addition of 10 more ESOL teacher positions next school year would allow ESOL teachers to manage their workloads effectively. ESOL teachers would be able to plan more meaningful lessons and be able to spend more valuable time with their students, which would allow teachers to better recognize where the students need remediation and where they need that extra help. With the addition of 10 ESOL positions, teachers would be able to provide interventions that allow our Spotsylvania students to be successful in our classrooms. Thank you.
Susan Kropp.
Good evening. My name is Susan Kropp, and I'm a voter in the Berkeley District. I have been an ESOL teacher in Spotsylvania County for 2 years. I am here tonight to speak in favor of Dr. Baker's recommendation for 10 new ESOL positions. For the past 2 years, I have been assigned to 2 schools, Cedar Forest Elementary School and Riverview Elementary School. I go to both schools every day. I start my day at Cedar Forest and work with 6 kindergartners, 21 first graders, 10 second graders, and one-on-one with 1 fourth grader. At 12 o'clock, I leave and travel to Riverview Elementary School and work with kindergarten through 5th grade. I service 59 students between 2 schools. In addition to the 59 students, I work with 18 different teachers between both schools. As an ESOL teacher, part of my responsibilities are to collaborate with classroom teachers, SPED teachers, and the reading teachers. But the issue I run into on a daily basis is that I can't collaborate with specialists or the content teachers. Many teachers who I work with have expressed that they feel unprepared to work with English learners and felt that more collaboration with the ESOL teacher was needed. The 10 new ESOL positions would significantly improve instruction and would allow ESOL teachers to collaborate and support the classroom teachers. When educators work together, we form important professional and personal relationships. Teachers often draw support from each other and can delegate tasks that allow each teacher to feel effective. Collaboration between teachers contributes to school improvement and student success. I ask you to please approve the 10 new ESOL positions. Thank you.
Missy Howard.
Good evening, Dr. Baker and school board members. My name is Missy Howard, a voter in the Battlefield District. My address is 9819 Levels Road. I am a veteran teacher with 25 years teaching experience, most of which has been here in Spotsylvania County. I am here today to speak in favor of Dr. Baker's recommendation for 10 new ESOL teachers. This year, I was blessed to become an ESOL teacher. While I can truly say that this position was my life's calling, and I'll never quit on these amazing students. English language learners bring a huge sense of family and extreme motivation into the classroom that I've never experienced before. I can also say it is the most challenging position that I've ever taken on in my teaching career, and this includes my national board certification. This year was the first time in my 25-year teaching career that I actually broke down crying after the first week of school. Beginning of the year paperwork for ELS students is quite overwhelming. It was not something that I was accustomed to in addition to my regular lesson plans. For the 2018-2019 school year, I am assigned a split between Cortland High School and Thornburg Middle School. At Cortland High School, I teach a class of 25 students who are at our level 1 in their language acquisition, which means they lack even basic conversation English, and a class of 14 level 3s and 4s, as well as push into a 9th grade world geography class and an 11th grade English class. Following my classroom instruction and push-ins, I report to Thornburg Middle School to push into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade classrooms. I service 90 students between the two schools who speak Spanish, Urdu, Arabic, and Chinese. As an ESOL teacher, my position requires me to teach ELS English, advocate for my students, build strong relationships with EL parents, lead professional development for teachers of ELS, and collaborate with specialists and content teachers. Because of my split position, it's often very difficult for me to be able to collaborate with content teachers. My time is spent either teaching in my own classroom or pushing into another teacher's classroom, making it virtually impossible to meet with other teachers during their planning times. And in addition to an ability to collaborate, it's impossible for teachers such as myself, who are split between two schools, to assist students when not on the same campus. A student load of 90 is difficult for a regular general education teacher to see on a daily basis, but it is compounded by the language acquisition component of the students for an ESOL teacher. The population of ESOL students in our county continues to rise, causing class sizes to rise as well. Because our ESOL students' needs are so great, smaller class sizes are essential to ensure that all students are getting the equitable education they deserve. The extra 10 positions that Dr. Baker is requesting would help to alleviate some of the caseload that ESOL teachers in the county have, allowing us to be able to provide more collaboration with content teachers. The better the collaboration, the better education that all students, including ELs, receive. The extra positions would also allow for ESOL teachers to remain at one school rather than being split between two schools, allowing for additional time to be spent focusing on the needs of our ELs. This includes content-specific language assistance with tests, as well as basic reading and writing skills. While part of my job is to advocate for these students, I will wholeheartedly advocate for them for free. I happen to think that all students in our county deserve an education equitable to others. Don't you agree? Thank you for my time.
Lakeisha Mendieto.
Good evening to the all present. My name is Laleska Mendieta, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today in front of you. I feel very lucky for that. I would like to speak to you about the need for extra ESOL teachers. I'm going through the last year of my high school career at Cortland High School. I will tell you a little bit about my story. I arrived in the United States 2.5 years ago, leaving behind everything in my country, Ecuador, my family, and I had to leave because of a horrible earthquake that destroyed our home. I was very happy to arrive here, a wonderful country that offers many opportunities to people that try to be better day by day. The first days for me were really hard because I didn't know English. There were stressful, exasperating days, not understanding anything about. But today, thanks to God, to my fort, but mostly to Cortland School and the greatest teachers, I can tell you that I can communicate very easily. All of the struggles that I went through made me form a support group for people like me who came to this country without any English base. That's why I'm part of the newcomers group for new students. This group is dedicated to help guide all new students who don't speak English. I also give my support to my ESOL teacher, Miss Howard, and believe me, she would like 10 more Lalescas to exist in order to help much more. I help her with all of the newcomers every other day. I want to finish by telling you that the ESOL classes are very important for us, the students who come here. These classes give us a lot of help and many ways to learn the language, through listening, writing, reading, and speaking, and to be able to communicate with others. Literally, when I'm in Miss Howard's class, I realize all the new students that are coming and all the needs that they have. Some students can read or write, but Miss Howard is helping them. Sometimes it is hard for her because we have so many students. Just today we got another new student, and last week we got 2 new students. Well, we all have different stories to tell, and that's why I say there are many students who need more help than others. I'm very happy for the teacher that we have this year, Miss Howard. Thank you so much for all the support and love that you give to all the students of this language. Thank you so much, and thank you, school board, for listening to me. Thank you.
Leanne Heaton.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Leanne Heaton, and I am not here tonight because I am a teacher or a staff member of Spotsylvania County. I don't even have children in the school system, but I am a resident of Spotsylvania County. I live at 5505 Oak Court. I am a voting member of the Livingston District, and the reason why I'm here tonight is to urge the unanimous support for the superintendent's budget. I'd like to point out 2 reasons for why I'm going to ask you to unanimously support this budget. Number 1, it's very obvious when you review this budget that your student population has not really changed over the last few years in terms of enrollment. So you say to yourself, why do we need an increase in funding then? It's not the numbers. It's the composition of your student population that's changing. And it's obvious when you look at the data that Dr. Baker provided. Number 1, those resources in the changing student population need to match. Resources match data. 2 points of data that are very compelling to me. Number 1, you have an increase in your student population that are economically disadvantaged. This requires additional and different kinds of resources that have been allocated in the past. Number 2, and we've heard it all tonight, you have an increase in your English language learning students. That's supported by your data. The superintendent is just asking for the resources to meet the changing needs of this jurisdiction. The second point I want to make, and has not been made tonight, but it was very compelling to me as a social scientist, is the increase in the need for school security. This is a growing issue throughout this country, not just in Spotsylvania County. Look at the budget. You had over 500 crisis and threat assessments combined in the last school year. Your superintendent is asking for resources to be proactive, to prevent a tragedy. How do you do that? You hire and you support trained professionals that do this kind of work. School counselors, social workers, your student resource officers that are the link to the police or the sheriff, your law enforcement. Those increases are preemptive, preventive ways to avoid a tragedy. Your school system knows this. They're asking for those resources. Your schools are asking for those resources. When I look at this budget, 27 out of 29 sites have asked for additional mental health services because of the growing and changing resources demands. Now, I'll tell you, when I went to school, We never thought about these kinds of things. We just hoped that the person that called on the phone with the bomb threat would get us out of class for a few hours. That's not the world that we live in now. Your school system is changing. The needs of your school system are changing. The resources need to join with your data. I ask you all to unanimously approve this budget. It is sound, it is data-driven, and we need all of your support. And we thank you for volunteering in this community. But we need this budget and we need the support because of the changing needs of your school system. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Mary from 6917 Bloomsbury Lane. And Mary, I apologize, but I can't read your name, the last name.
Good evening. I'm Mary Alice Aiken, 6917 Bloomsbury Lane, Livingston District. I did not plan to speak tonight. I just want to voice my support for this budget. I appreciate the board members and Dr. Baker, and I think it needs unanimous support. I have two children in middle school and a high schooler. My son this year in middle school, his permanent math teacher left. He has since had two long-term subs and multiple daily subs, many of them not math teachers. And we need to support our teachers. We need to recruit good teachers, and we need to pay them so that they stay in our district. We want to live in communities that support our schools so our property values increase. We have safe communities. These are all forward-thinking things that I think are in this budget. And so as a parent, I request a unanimous passing of this budget. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that's all the speakers that signed up.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board? Please come forward, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, Dr. Baker, Ms. Shelley, Mr. Myers, Ms. Phillips, Mr. Braswell, Mr. Twiggs, Mr. Blaine, and Ms. Grant. How are you guys doing today? I wasn't going to speak, but I'm going to go ahead and say something really quickly because I did speak in Richmond on the same topic, so I thought, what better way to go ahead and also address the board and talk about the budget as well. And I am in support of Dr. Baker's budget. School counselors, social workers, psychologists, and nurses play a significant role in the country, in the communities. In the Commonwealth ability to provide high-quality education to all children and to keep students safe. Each of the positions support academic and career development, as well as physical, social, and emotional well-being of students. These positions are important to addressing the needs of Virginia's growing population of special needs students and economically disadvantaged students. Students that may not have access to counseling, career development, and mental health services outside of school. There are some growing concerns about the students' safety and well-being and a greater focus on career success and higher education, highlighting the importance of these positions. However, over the last decade, there's been inadequate staffing and state resources have weakened the contribution that our staff can provide to our students. I support the needs-based budget, and I hope the rest of the board members do so as well. I will say I did have I had a son to graduate from Cortland High School 2 years ago, so I'm still involved in the school system. And I also have a 5-year-old that's coming up in kindergarten, so I'm still there. So I hope that you all support the budget as well as I do. Thank you.
Do we have another that would like to address the board? Please come forward, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Carol Ann Luter. I live at 9810 Poplar Forest Road. I've had the pleasure to work in Spotsylvania County for over 20 years. I have served as a teacher at Lee Hill, a teacher at Parkside, administrator at Cortland Elementary, administrator at Wilderness Elementary School, and currently the proud principal of the Lee Hill Lions. I thought about not speaking, but I want to make sure it's understood. Everybody talks about Dr. Baker's budget. And no disrespect, but what Dr. Baker and his cabinet did is present and pin to you our budget. It is our budget for our children. It is our budget with what they need. Understanding that there's always discourse, and it is your right and absolutely your service to make sure we have everything taken care of. But when the bottom line comes, it is important. That message is driven home tonight. It needs to be unanimous. Together, we prepare our students for the future. And that includes you as well. Thank you.
Will there be another? Will there be another that would like to address the board? Will there be another? At this time, we'll move on to 13.02, board member comments. I would like to ask board members to hold any comments about the budget until we get to 15.01. We will give you an opportunity to offer your closing argument as it pertains to the budget. But if you have other board member comments that you would like to address, the floor is going to open with Ms. Gramp and then with Ms. Shelley, and then we'll work our way in.
I just want to take a second to acknowledge the exhibit that is in our boardroom, and it's really cool. I found out about it last week that it would be here, and I found it very interesting. And I hear it's going to be here for the next week and then travel to one of our high schools. And so it'll be available for the public to come see, and it is the story of desegregation in Spotsylvania and Stafford County. And it's definitely worth taking a look at.
Thank you. One more thing about that wonderful exhibit. It has been at the museum at the John J. Wright Center. It's been there for a while. I saw it there. Just remember, that is a hidden gem in Spotsylvania. So if you have not been out to the John J. Wright Museum, you've got to get out there because there's always really wonderful exhibits. And then on to my comments. I attended an event that we were invited to by Mrs. Michelle Trampy on human trafficking in January. So I am going to actually talk a little bit more about that in new business, but I just wanted to mention that, and then all of my other comments are for new and old business, and of course the budget. So, but thank you to all of the speakers. Well noted what you said, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Mr. Blaine.
I think my only comment this evening is to thank everybody for being here. We've all benefited from the comments that people have made and the representation for your particular area of interest and community, and we appreciate you taking time to convey those ideas to us.
Thank you, Mr. Blaine. Dr. Meyer.
Thank you. I also want to thank our River Run staff for the wonderful, delicious dinner they prepared for us in recognition of School Board Appreciation Month. Also want to take time to thank all of our staff in the presentation of the budget and for the speakers this evening to advocate on behalf of our students and our staff. And congratulations to all who are recognized this evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Mr. Twigg.
A special thanks to each of you shared your thoughts tonight and your passion and compassion. I can certainly empathize with those tears and those endless hours and those endless dollars that you all contribute on a constant basis. So appreciate that and the comments. Also, I'd just like for y'all to take a special note of all the artwork you're looking at behind us. It all came from Livingston Elementary, one of the greatest elementary schools in the county. And Cindy Franzen runs a dynamic operation there. They're all friendly, and they're just a cohesive, wonderful bunch down there, and they produce dynamic art. So I just want to highlight that this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Twigg. Ms. Phelps.
Thanks. I just wanted to follow up with what Dawn Shelley had mentioned about the exhibit over here. I was impressed when I walked in because the last time I saw it was over at the John J. Wright, and I know it takes more than one person to move that. So I really appreciate it in here, and I did notice a lot of people looking at it and reading it. And so this yellow portion is sticking out over here to me, and it really hits home to me to where I am today. So back in 1963, what's up there? 1968 actually, sticks with me today in 2019. So anyway, I just appreciate everybody's help who brought that up here. Very impressive. So don't forget to look at it before everybody leaves tonight. If not, John J. Wright. And thanks to everybody who came out to the meeting tonight. I really appreciate it. And that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Phelps. I'll hold my comments till later. I want to have Dr. Baker offer any comments that he has.
Thank you, Mr. Braswell, and ladies and gentlemen of the board. Just have some very brief comments, but I want to expand a little bit on what several board members have shared. Tonight, I know later in our agenda there is a resolution that I believe Mr. Braswell will be bringing forth regarding Black History Month, and we have many things that are done not only in the month of February, but throughout our school year in our classrooms and in our schools to celebrate what I think has been articulated in a lot of budget comments, equity and equality. And as we strive for more equity, as we become more diverse, it's such a great opportunity and a fitting commemoration of this month and what we reflect on to see this display. And I don't want to embarrass him, but I would like Mr. Roger Braxton, who is homegrown Spotsylvanian, and who has, he and his wife Connie, who's also a former principal of ours, helped to run the John J. Wright Museum. And if he would just stand and be acknowledged. And he was shaking his head no before I said his wife, which is his sister, Connie Braxton. So thank you, Roger. I apologize for that. I don't know why that came out. I am very aware that that's your sister. But I want to read something that we had put in one of our opening impact newsletters, and it actually has a quote from Roger regarding the Walls Come Down desegregation in the Fredericksburg region exhibit on display. And I just want to read this because I think it kind of brings home some of the comments that have been shared, and then I'll kind of close with a couple other bits of information about the exhibit. But the National Park Service partnered with John J. Wright and our school division to have this new mobile exhibit, The Walls Come Down, Desegregation in the Fredericksburg region. It explores how desegregation took place throughout our region in Spotsylvania schools in 1963, Stafford schools in 1961, and the lunch counters in Fredericksburg, the city, in 1960. As Roger himself said, it's a story of courage and determination. The wisdom gained from the efforts of the 7 Spotsylvania girls, their families, and the community that supported them is enduring. The 7 girls, I think some of us that were able to be at a forum that was held at John J. Wright back in the fall, got to hear directly from these women who have that story to tell and offered great insights. But they have actually remained in contact over the years, and they participated in the development of this exhibit. The museum was kind enough to allow us to bring this, as you see, a very massive, very involved display. And we do thank several folks from our maintenance staff, as well as Renee Daniels, for helping to coordinate the vision that I had for it being in this building. And because I think initially Ms. Grant said we have it for a week, we have it for 2 months because it is going to be in this building for a couple of months, but we do hope to actually begin to put it in some of our schools, looking at one of our high schools before the end of the year. And it is something that we have already brought student advisories to see and to educate our students on the rich history and the triumphant history we have in overcoming segregated schools to have desegregation. And I want to thank all the folks that made that possible tonight. And I hope that folks will get an opportunity to enjoy it and to look at it and learn from it. Finally, and I'll close with this, I thank our staff and the community and the many folks that support me as a leader in this school board, as well as our staff. It's a real honor to serve in a community like this, and it makes me very proud to serve alongside so many diverse and dynamic and visionary people who want the best for educational quality in our school system and who will not settle for good when we can be great. So thank you.
Well, Dr. Baker, thank you for your comments. We move on to 14.01. Board member or board committee reports. Do we have any board committee reports? Ms. Shelley.
I have a few, actually. On January 17th, we had a meeting with the Food Task Force. First, I want to say the meeting for February has been postponed since we ended up meeting because of a snow day in December. We met in January, so the December meeting will be pushed back. Thankfully, the shutdown went away. The government shut down, but we had a little bit of concern about the shutdown, and if that comes back, we do have a concern about getting our federal funds for our food service from the federal government. So that's just something that we need to keep a thought into if that happens again. Our free and reduced numbers are still pretty high throughout our division. Those numbers have slightly increased since the beginning of the school year. And then also, but yet on a bright side, our negative balances are going down. So we are, the students' negative lunch balances have been, they're being paid for, so that is helpful for the division. Then on that same evening, I had a SEAC meeting, Special Education Advisory meeting, and at that meeting, it was a wonderful joint meeting because our Spotsylvania County Sheriff and our Fire and Rescue came to the meeting to talk about what they are doing to support our students with disabilities if they are called. And it was very informative, I think, to the parents to be able to get that information. So, and then they also talked about Project Lifesaver, which is a program through our Sheriff's Department that can help parents whose children might be runners to be able to find them easier. And if there's any questions about that, and then contact me or contact the Sheriff's Department, and they can help you out with that Project Lifesaver. And then on February 6th, we had a Spotsylvania Education Foundation meeting, and they are working up a new strategic plan. So, and the grants are coming through for the for their, I believe it was their seed grants. But just that's some highlights of the last three committees that I have attended.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Ms. Phelps.
So I have a really quick one. On January 22nd, I attended the first calendar committee meeting for 2020, 2021. And the emphasis for the meeting, for that first meeting, was to get a pulse on likes, dislikes, what we loved, what we couldn't do without for the upcoming school year calendar. And so I did request, and there was a lot of ideas and suggestions on days maybe to be made up or taken off for certain holidays, i.e. Veterans Day, or an earlier start for school. Different ideas were floating around, so it's a work in progress, and was really interesting to get a lot of feedback from different people on that committee. There's one thing I did request this year, was to send out a calendar survey to all parents and stakeholders, and I would highly encourage the teachers, staff, parents, and all stakeholders to get involved, share emails to myself or any of their experiences, what they liked, what they didn't like, what they can't do without, what they love, what they don't love, to either myself or the facilitator is Mr. Brown. He's someone out somewhere. Oh, he's right here. So it would be great to really hear the feedback from whether you like it or not, whether you want exams before winter break or not. And it would be very beneficial to the committee to have that. So I would highly encourage everybody to do that. And there's another meeting coming up. I don't have the date set just yet, right, Mr. Brown? February 21st. So anyway, that's what I'm working on, and that's what we're a part of here. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Phelps. I have a couple reports to make. Had the opportunity, I want to thank Cortland High School and Ms. Prudencio for inviting me to a ribbon cutting this morning. I really enjoyed it. It was the opening of the foreign language wing of Cortland High School. If you ever get an opportunity to go by and see the work that's being done there, you will be very impressed. And when we open up next year, for next school year, Cortland High School will be an absolute gem. Not that I show any favoritism towards Cortland High School, but it's going to be an absolute gem. And I want to thank Ms. Prudencio and the entire foreign language department for receiving me in a way that I felt very welcome, and I was excited to share with the students the opening of that particular wing. I also have been invited by Head Start for the 25th of February to R.E. Lee to engage in Dad's Night Out. And I always enjoy doing Dad's Night Out. I know what it's like to be a single dad, and they have a job to do, and they need some encouragement every now and then from somebody that's been down that road. And so I look forward to engaging on Dad's Night Out on the 25th, and also with the great work that's being done by Ms. Dawn Miller with the Head Start and Virginia Preschool. So I really appreciate the opportunity to serve Spotsylvania County through those venues. So thank you very much. Dr. Meyer?
Very briefly, the steering committee for fleet services met at the end of January, and we received an update on one of the initiatives is to look at how we are handling surplus vehicles, because believe it or not, that money can come back into the accounts. And the joint effort at Fleet Services to accomplish that has been tremendous. It's been a very, very good initiative. Also, the calendar committee, as Ms. Phelps commented on, is a work in progress. And the Cortland High renovation, they had their transition on February 1st for the newer section, the new classroom sections, the connector wing, and all those facets of the project are moving along And believe it or not, even with the weather that we've had, we're still on schedule and within budget. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Dr. Baker, did you have any reports? No reports. Okay, we'll move on to the item of the hour, 15.01. Approval of the fiscal year 2020 school board budget and the 2020 through 2024 capital improvement plan. And so the school board's 2020 budget was developed with feedback and input from various stakeholders, including students, principals, teachers, staff, parents, and community leaders. The budget is based off of the division's primary goals. Goal 1, attracting, retaining, and investing in high-quality teachers and staff. Goal 2, increasing student learning and achievement. Goal 3, supporting safe, engaging, and equitable learning environments. The major budget highlights of the 2020 school budget include maintaining competitiveness and attracting and retaining highly skilled and dedicated employees by increasing compensation through a proposed 5% salary increase for all staff, implementing Phase 2 of the Evergreen Compensation and Benefits Study, no employee health insurance increases, modernization of health insurance benefits to include a new third plan, high deductible health plan or / health savings accounts, 149 FTEs, investment in student support positions, stipend increases of 5% for academic and athletic stipends, rate increase in substitute rates of $10 an hour, hourly rate increase for custodians from $10 to $11.50 an hour, hourly rate increase for teachers, summer and after-school work from $25 to $30 an hour, increases to school-based allocations, restoration of employee tuition reimbursement, and additional non-compensation investment to include band uniforms and band transportation funding. Overall, the fiscal year 2020 school board approved budget represents a needs-based budget, which is aligned with the division's strategic plan and the framework for teaching and learning. The fiscal year, the 2020 and through 2024 CIP includes capital maintenance, capital technology, and capital transportation projects based on educational program requirements. The school board will present its fiscal 2020 budget to the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday, February 12th at 4:30 p.m. at the Holbert Building, and a joint budget work session will follow on Tuesday, March 12th at 6 p.m. at the Holbert Building. It's the administration's recommendation that the school board approve its 2020 budget, including its 2020 and through 2024 capital improvement plan budget. We have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll be happy to make that motion to approve the budget as presented by the superintendent.
I would like to second that motion.
Motion to approve the budget by Dr. Meyer, seconded by Ms. Shelley. Properly moved and seconded. We will start what I call closing arguments with Ms. Gramp and then Ms. Shelley, and we'll work our way in, and I will be last.
Good evening. I just want to thank all the speakers that spoke earlier for the budget. It's very nice to have the support from the public. For those people that were here and that felt strongly about the budget, I would like to make you aware that currently, after crossover with the General Assembly, the two versions of the budget, there's a big difference between them and how much funding there is attached. So still contact your delegate and your senator and make sure that they know to support whichever budget compromise gives public education more funding. There's up to a $900,000 difference between the two versions that are on the floor right now. That could be a big difference in our budget. So please, thanks for being vocal here. hope to stay vocal through the local process, but please don't forget to contact your state representatives because $900,000 is going to be a big difference to our budget. As far as this budget, I've touched on it in every work session we've had, most every conversation, that our county tends to be reactionary when it comes to public service funding, and has been for a decade. But as the speaker said earlier, I'm much more for being proactive. Every budget that we've presented since I've been on the board in 2014, we highlight the demographic changes. Every single year, we point out that our English language learners are growing. Our students needing disability services are growing. And our economically disadvantaged students are growing. Every year we point that out. We put it out in charts. We point it out when we speak that these are main budget drivers, and those populations are growing. Our overall numbers aren't growing, but our population that requires the most services, as pointed out earlier by our speakers, is growing. The burden that the English language learner teachers are presented this evening with their student ratios is the same burden that our counselors are experiencing, our social workers are experiencing, and all of those special services groups with those that are responding to the needs of our ever-changing population. We have got to be proactive about servicing these students. Each year, we are told to predict local funding from our local side. The state in the past 5 or 6 years is rising at not the percentage we would like since the 2009 cuts, but they are responding. They are recognizing that Virginia schools and employees are trailing in funding. So they are trying to make it up. The increases are coming. The local side, we're told every year to count on local funding, level funding. And we keep explaining there's budget drivers that are increasing, and we need to be proactive in responding to these. And this year, the failure to be proactive and to just be reactionary over the past 5 or 6 years, it's all added up, and we need funding for these special groups and for these services and for our employees to not have a ratio of 60, 70, 80 English language learners per teacher. Our counselor ratios are too high. Our maintenance department is still staffed with less maintenance people than in 2009. So we have to pay attention to how much we're asking our employees to do. And they need to be compensated for the load of work that they are taking. And as I mentioned last year, our administrator to student ratio is 131st out of 132 schools. So our administrators are working harder, the same ratios that we're asking everybody to do, and it's just getting to be too much. So we need to compensate our staff, and we need to respond to the needs of our community and the needs of our students.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Ms. Shelley.
Thank you. As I've said as well, this is a very good budget. Our staff deserve more than the 5%, but this is a good start. They work hard. Every single person in this division works hard to support our students, and we need to compensate them because they are working with our children, the future leaders of Spotsylvania, of the country, of the world. These are our kids. So we have to remember that. This budget is about them. The 149 positions is supporting our students. I have been asking for the social workers for a number of years. Our students are having more and more mental health needs. So the counselors and the social workers that this budget includes is going to help our students directly. The number of teachers, the number of gen ed teachers, special ed teachers, L teachers Our students deserve this. When I was hearing some of these numbers that our L teachers were talking about, I know what that means. Level 1, I know what that means. And to have 24 or 25 level 1s in a class, that they don't speak English. That's what level 1 is. They need support. Our kids need support. That's why our teachers need support, to help our students. This is all about the kids. The rate increase for our substitutes, I just wanted to make a correction. It's $10 per day, not hour, but we have teachers that have to be out. And we're struggling to get substitutes, because I heard one time a complaint about that, about the pay going up for our substitutes. Our students need to have somebody in that classroom that can help them when their teacher has to be out. And if we're going to continue, if we want to get people in those buildings to support our kids, when those teachers can't be out, we have to be able to pay them. And the compensation that is competitive. We're still not quite where some of the other divisions are, but we're getting much closer. And I think it's going to help us with that. The hourly rates, the helping of our bands, our music departments, giving them a little bit of relief for the transportation costs or the uniforms costs. This is something else I've been asking for a number of years, and I'm glad to see it in this budget. This budget is good. This budget is needs. It's the needs for our students, and I cannot stress that enough. It's for the students of Spotsylvania County. Our nearly 24,000 students are citizens of Spotsylvania County. So we need to remember that, and I will be supporting this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Mr. Blaine.
I often mention values, and the last time I spoke about this, I was talking about values, and we are, actions have to support the values that we have if our values mean anything. And the Virginia Department of Education, and I'd like to address where's the money coming from to do all of these things? That's a fundamental question here. We have the interest in doing the correct thing, and how do we pay for it? Frankly, we've got the money. It's not a problem. And I'll tell you why. The Virginia Department of Education reports that the state average cost per pupil expenditures for operations for all 132 school divisions for fiscal year 2017 was 12,171 students, or per student. For fiscal year 2017, Spotsylvania County's cost per pupil expenditures for operation was $10,873. That's a couple $1,000s less. Based on the state average, Spotsylvania County Schools is spending $1,298 less per student, which is approximately $30 million less annually for our total student populations. So we're not overspending, that's for sure. The numbers I have for income, and let's just look at that for just a moment. For 2017, according to my notes, the median family income for the nation was $62,372. The median family income for Virginia is $10,000 more than that, $72,571. And where's Spotsylvania? Well, the median family income for Spotsylvania is $7,000 higher than the state of Virginia. It's $79,942. So we've got money to spend. The point is that Virginia is ahead of our nation by over $10,000 per year, and the Spotsylvania is ahead of Virginia by over $5,000 or $7,000. We are the 12th largest division in the state. All of our children must have additional education beyond high school. All of us, school board members, Board of Supervisor members, parent and other adults in our community, claim to place a high value on the quality of education we provide. Every single person in this room, if I asked if you believe in quality education, you'd raise your hand. The problem is we need now to act to implement these values. We are the 12th largest division. I'm sorry, I missed that. Spotsylvania has the financial ability, and we should be prepared to implement our values by increasing our educational investment from the current $10,873 per student up to the state average of $12,171 per student as we deem necessary. And you can see that Spotsylvania has the economic wherewithal to do exactly that. And that's what I encourage, and that's why I'm in favor of this budget.
Thank you, Mr. Blaine. Dr. Byer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We spent the last several meetings reviewing budget data, budget information with what was presented by the superintendent and prepared by the finance staff. Unit said interesting that we always ask to receive more state funds. And we are going to receive more state funds. It's with the increase in state funds comes the local share that follows the SOQ positions. But we don't just fund locally SOQ positions, we fund all positions. So there is anticipated that at the local level, there has to be some match in order to fulfill what's being required in the state funding. So at the state funding, there is being funded, as we understand it, 5%. Whether 5% gets implemented January 1st or July 1st, that's discussion between the two budget scenarios, the House and the Senate. But there is an accompanying local match that is required. In prior years, we would have to address the VRS and have a local match. Well, this year there is no change in the VRS, the Virginia Retirement System. There is no change in the group life insurance. There is, as a matter of fact, no change on the health insurance component. We're being able to cover that with our own funds, which is a benefit for our staff and our employees. But we do have needs, as we ask of the superintendent to not draw an imaginary line and say that's all we're going to ask for, but to identify those needs. The staff has done very well in elaborating what our needs are. At our public hearing, we heard from our social workers for the needs for mental health guidance and for additional social workers. Tonight we heard how the needs will, in the request for 10 EL teachers and how that will help mitigate the problems that they are having. It was very clear from what was presented by staff. And those same needs were presented to the superintendent and presented to us. I think it's important, as a matter of fact, it's our duty as a school board member to advocate for the need that we address the needs of our staff and our students. We've seen how our composition of our student body, while the overall number hasn't increased, but when you dive down into the detail, you clearly see that there is a change. ECD, economically challenged, has significantly changed. When I came to Spotsylvania County, it was 14%. We're now at 39. If that isn't a change, I don't know what is. And we will present to the supervisors as we lay out our requests how the change in special ed and within the special ed, you look at the overall population of special ed has increased. When you dive into it, what's really changing, there are subgroups that are changing dramatically. The same thing for EL. The need for, as we've heard, for safety and security. We have to be able to address those needs, and it presents a need for our guidance counselor, more guidance counselors. And also, as we look at the profile of a Virginia graduate, the need for those guidance people to be able to help our students when we get into trying to develop individualized learning plans for our students. All those are going to require more staff, more guidance, and all part of the profile of a graduate. We heard part of that presented again this evening. So I am wholly in supportive of the budget. As a school board member, it is my responsibility to advocate for these needs and to ask that these needs be addressed through our meeting with the supervisors. They are the ones that can address the funding level. But level funding certainly doesn't cut it. Level funding ignores what is anticipated through the composite index, that if you're going to receive state funds, you have to have a local match that goes with it. You can't receive 6-7 million additional funds at the state level and anticipate zero increase at the local level. That's not a match. It's a mismatch. So we definitely have to have more funding at the local level. If we're going to be requesting state funds, we have to understand with state money comes the need for additional local funding. And it's just going to be a need, and we have identified through the needs of our students, and we'll present it tomorrow night, to the supervisors. I want to thank Dr. Trampy for being here the whole time, and we'll be addressing he and his colleagues to present our needs tomorrow night. But I am wholly supportive of this budget to advocate for the needs of our students and our staff. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Mr. Twigg.
My priorities for this budget are to solidify the programs that we already have in place, given the certain restricted funds this budget cycle will lend. To do this, we need to responsibly continue to pay our teachers and staff, provide more counselors at the middle and high school level, provide more money in special education, music program funding to relieve the burden on our band parents, and more investment into our career and technical education programs. There's a lot more in this proposed budget that I am willing to require my 18,000 constituents in the Great Livingston District to pay for. And Dr. Baker expressed to me as recently as this weekend that this budget includes a teacher program piece for his specialty school programs. I continued by asking him for a cost breakdown, and if not, at least just a cost summary of what that would be, and he could not provide that at the time. Specialty schools will certainly change the face of this, our great community. The school board has never voted on specialty schools. The school board does not have a written plan for specialty schools. The school board does not know what specialty schools will cost. The school board does not have any input yet from our community about specialty schools. Yet the expense of existing and basic program needs, our school division is creeping into specialty schools. Last year, an arts program started at Riverbend. It crept in under Dr. Baker's specialty school umbrella. We should not be starting a teacher program at Chancellor with no plan or budget while our parents are still paying $1,000 a year for their child to participate in a high school band program, another existing priority program. Again, we should not be creeping into specialty schools with no plan, no cost awareness, and certainly no community input. And for those reasons, I will not support the initial round of Dr. Baker's $18 million, that's a 5% increase, budget increase. Thank you. I yield my time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Twigg. Ms. Phelps.
Okay, I just wanted to let everyone know I take this job serious, and in a budget season where we're supposedly putting the teachers and the employees first, I need to tell you that I do support the employees receiving the 5% raise or increase. They're overworked, I know firsthand. My kids are in the schools. And I'm talking about all the employees, bus drivers, teachers, paras, administrators, principals, vice principals. I can say that I will support some of the non-compensation increases and some of the added positions if the results help close the gap. It's a pretty big gap. I would like the school board, actually, to make an effort to address the gap. You know, like Michelle said when we first started this whole process, that it was going to be challenging, and I totally agree with her. And in order to close the gap, I believe that our employees who live, they pay rent here, they pay mortgages, they pay taxes, they will not feel the benefits of a pay raise if there's an increase in county taxes. For example, like last year, the health care contributions went up, 4% raise. But where did that 4% raise go to? That went to the medical contributions from our employees. I know I was contacted by many employees about it. They didn't even break even, and some of them had to wind up paying. So I asked myself, was that really a raise? Also, I know for a fact the economically disadvantaged student population is increasing here in Spotsylvania County. I heard it tonight, which translates to me that the rents are going to go up if our taxes go up, which puts the burden right back on the economically disadvantaged children. So I did research, and 52% of Spotsylvania County residents, they're renters. So their rent is going to go up if the taxes go up. And after I diligently reviewed the 2020 budget, there were areas, line by line item, the increase in the superintendent's annuity, thousands of dollars, small potatoes in the big budget we have. But it's concerning to me. Have we examined it close enough to ensure we caught the other areas? The financial impact of the Learning Center programs, this board questioned in November, actually November 26, 2018. To date, we have not received answers to those questions. Mr. Braswell asked about the cost and the need for buses. Dr. Meyer said it's not free, it does cost. We have not received the estimated fiscal impact of running additional set of buses from the other 4 high schools to Chancellor and back for the Teacher Academy. The new courses in the Program of Studies booklet that's online were not approved by the school board. Adding a new division-wide program is both a new curriculum and a change. At the very least, I should have all of my questions completely answered, and for this school board to vote on the addition of new curriculum and changes. And how can I, in good conscience, make an informed decision and defend sitting here voting for a huge budget and the implications that it's going to have to the staff, to the children, to the parents, to my Lee Hill constituents, and the taxpayers without being provided with complete information? So by this board not voting these new programs that are already being initiated, like Kirk Twigg had mentioned, leads me to believe that this board had violated Virginia Code Section 22.1-79, Powers and Duties of the School Board, which states, a school board shall, insofar as not inconsistent with state statutes and regulations of the Board of Education, operate and maintain public schools in the school division and determine the length of the school term, the studies to be pursued, the methods of teaching, and the government to be employed in the schools. It looks like this law disproves the statement that school boards do not approve curriculum. Our teachers and the staff, all employees, including bus drivers, maintenance workers, paras, administration, the cabinet here, are an utmost priority. And I'll continue to do what I can to support the compensation for our employees. I believe as a board, we can give our teachers and staff the pay raise that they deserve without this level of increase. Therefore, as proposed right now, I cannot support this budget.
Thank you, Ms. Phelps. I'll finish. I will say that I will be enthusiastically supporting the budget. I respect all of my colleagues. They were duly elected, and they have to make very tough decisions. But I'm kind of old school about the way I kind of do things, and I say what I mean and mean what I say. I don't see the purpose of offering a red herring for a budget that you fundamentally disagree with. Just say you disagree with it. That's fine. Let's look at the facts. The facts say that we have an issue of economics, supply and demand economics. We have competition with King George, competition with Stafford, Prince William County. All the surrounding counties are proposing right now a 5% increase in salary for employees. And if we don't keep up, we're going to fall behind. And if we fall behind, it costs more money in order to get back on par. It goes back to what Ms. Gramp and Ms. Shelley were talking about earlier, the fact that we tend to react instead of being proactive. So I appreciate the superintendent stating unequivocally for a 5% increase in salary for our employees. Not only do they deserve it, but supply and demand demands that we pay it. You can't complain about classroom sizes and not support FTEs. It just doesn't make good going around sense. If you want smaller class sizes, you either have to have less students or more classrooms with teachers leading those classrooms. So in this budget, you see that there are 149 FTEs to address classroom size because it's important for our students to learn in an environment that provides a favorable student-to-teacher ratio. This budget provides for that. We also see that there's a lot of non-compensation issues that our teachers have had to endure in terms of cuts from 2009. They're still a decade behind when it comes to non-compensation. And yeah, band falls into that category. We put it in that category, but there's a lot of other things that go into non-compensation. And I had great conversations with our band parents. I had great conversations with our parents that are engaging in other activities other than sports, and the importance for our kids to be involved in those activities. And you can't say I don't support the budget and not support the band. Either you are or you're not for them. To me, it's pretty simple. We don't get the opportunity to have a line item veto over our budget. We vote to either support it and everything that's in it, or we vote against it and everything that's in it. I appreciate the hard work that our staff put into addressing all the questions and concerns that we as individual board members have brought to their front. They answered them professionally. They answered them to the best of their ability and knowledge. And I would never take any of our staff members and toss them under the proverbial bus for the work that they've done for us. We all had tough decisions to make, and we all have to stand by our decisions. But we clearly don't need to scapegoat anybody for the decisions that we make. So with that being said, I will, with Dr. Meyer, excitingly and enthusiastically and unashamedly bring this budget to the Board of Supervisors and present it with all my passion and all my concern, not only for the students of Spotsylvania County, but for all the hard work that our faculty and teachers perform on a day-to-day basis to support the very best. So with that being said, we'll call for the vote. We'll start by roll call. Dr. Meyer, your vote.
Aye.
Mr. Blaine.
Aye.
Ms. Shelley.
Shelley, aye.
Ms. Gramp.
Gramp, aye.
Mr. Twig.
Twig, no.
Ms. Phelps.
Phelps, no.
And the chair, Braswell, aye. The motion carried. The budget is approved with a 5-2 vote, 2 dissenting votes. Mr. Twig and Ms. Phelps. Moving on to 15.02, second reading, approval of new school board policy, DJA, pre-funding other post-employment benefits, OPEB, through a trust fund. Ms. Gaines.
Good evening, Mr. Braswell, school board members, Dr. Baker and Dr. Martin. On this evening, staff is requesting second reading approval of DJA. You did approve first reading at your last meeting, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to recommend second reading approval, DJA.
A second.
We have a motion by Dr. Meyer and a second by Ms. Gramp. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 6-0, 1 not present.
Thank you.
15.03, HVAC replacement for Spotsylvania Middle School, IFB 01102-019-1400. Mr. Hockaday and Ms. Carter.
Good evening, Chairman Braswell, school board members, Dr. Baker and Dr. Martin. Tonight I'm presenting the award recommendation for the HVAC replacement for Spotsylvania Middle School. The school division issued an invitation for bid on December 6, 2018 for the replacement of the air-cooled rooftop air conditioning unit at Spotsylvania Middle School. The work includes selective demolition of existing reinforced concrete roof deck and roofing system, as well as various mechanical and electrical work as indicated in the engineer drawings. The procurement was advertised on EVA, Virginia's statewide procurement website, as well as Spotsylvania County Schools purchasing website and the Freelance Star. 3 bids were received by the due date and time, with E-Tech Mechanical Corporation being the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. On behalf of the procurement department and the engineer's letter from ASIN Engineering Group, we are recommending that the school board accepts the low bid of $539,200 submitted by E-Tech Mechanical Corporation to perform the work for the HVAC replacement project. All of the firm's bids documents were submitted in accordance with the invitation to bidders, and their qualifications meet or exceed the requirements set forth for this project.
Thank you. We have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the approval of the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Blaine. We have a motion by Mr. Blaine. We have a second. Second by Ms. Shelley. Any discussion? Ms. Phelps, please.
I just have a question on that RFP that went out, or their contract. Do we recycle the old HVAC, the parts, and for that? Do they give us credit for it? I'm not a HVAC.
Yes, ma'am. It depends on how the contract's set up, but we, in this case, this project is only only covers the auditorium area of that building, just to point that out. But the unit that will be replaced is still owned by us, and then we recycle it. We'll recycle it, and those funds will go back into the general fund. So we never lose ownership of it, and whatever money we get from recycling comes back to us, the school system.
What do you take, like the parts out? Part by part and recycle it or sell
It
it?
depends on what type of unit it is. In this case, what will be able to be recycled will probably be separated into about three different pieces, just because you can get more for it that way. And it depends on when you do it. Scrap prices are not the best right now, but we can't always control that. So for what is you can get money from, we will scrap some of the metal that's inside, the ductwork, the labor in trying to get that to be able to scrap it. You spend more in labor than you do in which you'll ever get return from the scrap price.
Right. We could probably save money on the new system versus the old one. How old is the old one? I mean, just efficiency, right?
The system and design, is 1965.
Okay.
So, and we've done a lot of work to it since then, but this is what is being replaced is the rooftop unit along with the ductwork that supplies the area to the auditorium. It's all in very bad shape and needs to be replaced.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 7-0. Thank you, sir. And ma'am.
Thank you very much.
We have next 15.04, approval of resolution supporting Read Across America Day in Spotsylvania County Public Schools. Ms. Baleko.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Baker, Dr. Martin, members of the board, Chairman Braswell. On March 1st, 2019, Spotsylvania County School students are asked to join millions of their peers across the country to celebrate Dr. Seuss's birthday and the 20th annual Read Across America Day. It is expected that more than 45 million readers will join this celebration. Our elementary schools will be celebrating Dr. Seuss's birthday with reading activities throughout the week. It is administration's recommendation that the school board approves Read Across America resolution as presented and authorize the chair to sign accordingly.
Thank you. Ms.
I
Baleko.
would like to make the motion
Okay.
for the Read Across America resolution.
We have a motion for Read Across America by Ms. Shelley.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Phelps. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries 7-0. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We're moving now to 15.05, approval of resolution to support African American History Month. Each year during the month of February, Spotsylvania County Public Schools celebrates African American History Month. Traditionally, each school participates in a variety of activities in the context of several disciplines and on various grade levels. A resolution of support is attached for the school board's consideration, and I will read that. Resolution in support of African American History Month, Spotsylvania County Public Schools. Whereas African American History Month is intertwined with the development of America and its study provides an essential perspective of life in America today, and whereas knowledge of African American history enhances personal and intellectual development and advances communication among individuals and the family, the school, the community, the state, the nation, and the world, and whereas African American men and women have made significant contributions to the growth, prosperity, and character of America, and whereas African American history is promoted by the cooperative efforts of educators, parents, businesses, local governing bodies, industry, and members of the community and professional organizations of all background. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the month of February is to be recognized as African American History Month in Spotsylvania County Public Schools. Signed, Baron P. Braswell, Chair, adopted, and for 11 February 2019. Do we have a motion?
I would like to make a motion to adopt the African American History Month resolution.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley, for the motion, and second by Dr. Meyer. Any comments?
Was that for February, right?
Yes, ma'am. Any comments? I'd like to make a comment. I think it has been mentioned earlier in the meeting of the display, this great display that we have here in front of us. And as you look at the dates, it seems like it was a long time ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. And it just talks to not only how far have we gone, and how much progress we've made, but how much progress is left ahead of us. So I'm honored that Spotsylvania County Schools have made this proclamation, and we've done it each and every year. You know, people like myself, we just stand on the shoulders of great people ahead of us. There was a feisty school board member by the name of Lee Broughton. And she was the first elected school board official, African American, in this county. And to stand on great shoulders like hers, not only is she very feisty and articulate, but she knew her business. And so I'm honored to be able to sit here where she sat and do my very level best for all of Spotsylvania County schools. I've said once, and I've said it many a times, that the study of African American history is not as a salad bowl, where you have a little bit of lettuce and a little bit of tomato and a little bit of onion, and they never mix themselves together. But the American experience is a great stew. And to not include all ingredients in that stew would cause for a foul-tasting stew. But the great American experience includes all peoples from all different cultures, and they've blended and melted themselves together to make one fantastic stew. And yeah, are we constantly tweaking the recipe? Absolutely. But there's no better stew than America. So with that being said, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposing? Hearing none, the motion carries 7-0. We'll move on now to 15.06, approval of 2019 board committee appointments and assignments. Dr. Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and fellow board members. You have attached the listing of committees. It is different this year. A lot of the committees are mentioned, but we've formatted it quite differently in order to identify those committees which have specific delegating voting rights, and those which do not have delegated voting rights, those which perform delegated functions of the board. So the first three that you have there are the Commonwealth Governor School. Mr. Blaine is a representative, and he represents and votes for the board on the Governor School Board. The same with Local Finance Board. Ms. Gramp and myself serve on that. And the Joint Fleet Maintenance Steering Committee, I serve on that, and when I vote for this board. It's different than some of the others. Going on down, also noting that as a public body, carrying out specific functions of the board has a requirement for a 3-day meeting notice and follows FOIA, which means if minutes are kept, those minutes can be requested. If no minutes are kept, then it's mute. But the 3-day prior notice is a requirement if you're dealing with as a committee that is defined as a public body. Note that the Virginia School Board Delegate Assembly is not considered a public body, but we do carry the authority to vote for the board. And usually it's the chair, the vice chair is the alternate. You have other committees which are considered public bodies, but do not carry any voting necessarily to represent the board. The School Board Disciplinary Review Committee, the Career and Technical Advisory, Gifted Education Advisory, School Health Advisory, Special Ed Advisory, and Construction Maintenance Change Order Committee. Those are public bodies. 3-day notice is required as a public body, but there's no delegated voting authority granted with it. In other words, it doesn't impose or carry the onus of a board. You have committees that are non-public bodies, do have no requirement under FOIA or 3-day notice. Calendar Committee is one. And Calendar Committee is a good example of, it's really at the behest of the superintendent, who, in this case, Mr. Brown, leads that committee, but it's not a board activity. The board members participate, Ms. Phelps and myself participate in that, but we don't carry a vote as a board. We don't carry that kind of authority. We're there to participate and to be able to help represent when a calendar committee meets, makes recommendations. Ms. Phelps and I can explain to our other fellow board members what was discussed, et cetera. But we carry no actual authority. The School Food Task Force is another. The Finance and Audit Committee, Information Technology Advisory Committee, the Northern Virginia Special Education Regional Program Board, Ms. Shelley, Head Start Fiscal Policy is Mr. Braswell, and the Education Foundation is interesting in that it is not a Spotsylvania County Public Schools committee. The foundation operates independent and separate. So, and there's no vote that's attached to it, no voting authority. So it's it's a little bit different. The County Citizens Budget Review Committee, Ms. Shelley participates in that. It is a public body, but it's not of this board. It's of the County Board of Supervisors. So it's a distinction. So these are the committees, and we have, Mr. Braswell and I met this last week to go over this, as well as we received advice from legal counsel so that we could delineate more clearly the authority that goes with the different committees and whether they have voting responsibilities or not. And we're recommending this for board approval this evening.
Thank you. All right, we need a motion on the floor first.
I'll be happy to make the motion, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blaine, moved by Dr. Meyer. Now discussion. It was Mr. Blaine, right? Yeah, Mr. Blaine. Okay, so it's been properly moved and seconded. Discussion. Any board members have discussion? Ms. Phelps.
So the Food Service Task Force, is that so you said that's not a required committee? I know.
It is a committee that's established by the board as representation, but it is not a public body.
So before I took this board, there was appointments. Each school board member, I think I could be wrong, appointed, or anyway, there was an appointee, somebody appointed from that was representing Lee Hill on this task force committee, and I had to wait over a year. So I was wondering when the restructuring comes, and are there new members that roll in and roll out, so we have a fluid membership, or is it the same members that are appointed that were appointed before I was?
The
I
members.
took the seat.
Hold on.
So I need a
Let her finish.
description.
Let her finish.
So-
Are you finished?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just need a description.
Okay, so go ahead, Dr. Meyer. Do you want to answer that?
I'm not sure if a roll-in, roll-out is the right connotation with that, because every January or February, when the new officers of the board are established, the chair and the vice chair review the assignments, and then a recommendation is officiated or formalized at a board meeting. But it can stay the same for umpteen years, or it could vary. It's really at the behest of the chair and the vice chair, and the chair is the final say-so.
Any other comments? Any other comments? Let me add some clarification. First of all, we wanted to make sure that we consulted with legal to ensure that we had a clear delineation of what board committee duties, what they meant, and to make sure that we did not put ourselves in a position where we would have a meeting with more than 2 members at a particular location or a particular get-together. We did not want to put ourselves in that predicament, so we streamlined the process by removing all the alternates. There's no longer alternates, because it gave the connotation that the alternate would have the opportunity to go to a meeting, and if someone else showed up, then we would have 3 people at a meeting, and we would be violation of the standards for meetings. And the potential consequences for violating a meeting would put not only the board at peril, but each individual board member for violation of that law. So that's one thing that we considered. The other thing that we considered was, or what we wanted to make sure was that we didn't want to have a lot of changeover this year. I specifically, that was my doing. I didn't want a lot of changeover in positions because we got an election coming up with 4 seats up for election, and we didn't want to have the following year have a significant turnover in seats and lose continuity in those committee positions. So that was the guidance that I gave to Dr. Meyer and I when we were going through the process of determining who was going to be in what seats, and we tried to maintain some stability in the seats for this particular year. Now, what happens next year after the election, that's an entirely different story. But at least for this year, it was my desire to make sure that we did not have a lot of turnover unnecessarily if we could avoid it. So that was the purpose of that. Ms. Phelps, go ahead.
I just had, it seems like it's the same group or the same members of the Food Service Task Force, so I was just looking at different options to appoint somebody from the Lee Hill District or maybe even from the community to be a part of that and get in the mix, to come back so we have different flavor, different ideas, maybe going through and create.
You're on it.
So I'm just saying, as far as, because there are other members besides the school board members that are continually on the same cafeteria lunch or the Food Service Task Force food lunch meeting. And so I'm just looking at opening it up to the community for other people who may want to get involved. That's my comment, and that's why I'd like to appoint somebody to, at least from Lee Hill.
Ms. Phelps, before it was Mr. Twig that was on there, and I moved him off of it, and I put you on it. And I moved Mr. Twig to construction maintenance change order, which you were on before. So that was the only significant change that I made. I put you on food service. In fact, I specifically I wrote a note to you and said, hey, I'd like for you to do this because I recognize that you had a passion for that particular committee, and I thought it would be appropriate. So that's why I did that. So you're on that committee.
I appreciate that, but when I was elected and I was on the board, I was told that there was already somebody from Lee Hill appointed that could not be on that task force because they were appointed by the previous person.
No, ma'am.
So that's how it's been running. So that's why I'm just looking for their vision.
This only has to do with us as individual board members. You're representing the Spotsylvania County School Board, once we vote, on the Food Service Task Force Committee. How the rest of the committee is composed, that's really not up, that's not our concern.
Oh, so it's not, they don't have vision, bylaws. I know that we need to have a certain amount of numbers when the RFP comes
if
out
you-
for
if you-
food.
The
If you-
RFP was
Right.
something, I'm sorry.
Right.
Mr. Braswell.
So-
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll just stop
No,
then.
hold on, you're
There
fine.
you go.
Just go ahead. Go ahead, Michelle.
There were members of the task force that were on the RFP, but it's not necessarily people from the task force. There just happened to be people from the task force, as well as our purchasing agent, that was on that RFP committee. The people on this, and this is a committee that, if the board decides we no longer need it, it might be something that the board says we don't need anymore and we get rid of it. It was a committee that was formed way before I got on the board by two former board members because they wanted to get more information about the food service provider at the time and get some support in there. And that is what that committee has done. So that would be maybe another discussion of the food task force. Is there another, is this necessary, continue with the task force? But that would be a food task force itself committee. The people on the committee had, the person who you were mentioning from Lee Hill was appointed from a previous committee, but she is on the food task force, and she's a Lee Hill representative, but not necessarily because she's from Lee Hill, because that's the task force she was put on. So having her there is, I think, is a good thing. But right now, I think the members of the committee are there until they no longer want to be there.
And
That's something from the task force.
I don't want to muddy the waters. We're not worried about the composition of the food task force. What I'm concerned about is who from the Spotsylvania County School Board will be represented on the food task force. And that was the decision that I made, and so we're going to call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 7-0. Let's move on to unfinished business. Any unfinished business? Ms. Shelley.
Sorry. I had, at the last board meeting, brought up the resolution for Red for Ed. And I have now typed it up so that we can formally vote for the Red for Ed resolution. But I will pass it down, but as I am passing it down, I will read the resolution. Because I'm going to make a motion that we, as a board, adopt this resolution. Whereas the Commonwealth has no more precious resources than its children, and whereas public schools represent the best public means to help Virginia children live rich and fulfilling lives, and whereas Virginia's state per pupil funding for K-12 education has declined 9% since the 08-09 school year, adjusting for inflation, and public schools have 1,242 fewer positions despite growing student enrollments. And whereas Virginia teachers earn $9,218 under the national average, ranking the Commonwealth 34th in the nation. And whereas educators and public education supporters around the country have chosen the color red and the slogan Red for Ed to call attention to the inadequacy of current school funding and the harm it does to children. And now, therefore, be it resolved that Spotsylvania County Public Schools supports the aim of the Red for Ed campaign to enrich children's lives by increasing resources for K-12 schools. Therefore, be it further resolved that Spotsylvania County Public Schools encourages all supporters of public education in the Commonwealth to wear Red for Ed each Wednesday to demonstrate commitment to increasing support for our public schools and those who work in them. I make a motion to support this resolution.
We have a motion by Ms. Shelley. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Grant. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, it seems near and dear, this resolution to your heart, and I'm going to make a spirited vote and vote with you since I know how passionate that you seem to be. So there you have it.
Well, thank you. And I believe it should be passionate for everyone who works in public education, and that we are school board members of a public school division with nearly 24,000 students and over 3,000 employees. I would hope that the entire board would support this, because it is just to support the funding for our students of the state of Virginia, across the nation, but especially here in Spotsylvania County.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Any other comments? Mr. Blaine?
I would just like to mention that the parents in our community trust us, and they send their children to our staff, and they're in school every day, and we depend upon them to prepare our children to function effectively as adults. And our staff does an absolute terrific job, and I am absolutely in favor of this.
Thank you, Mr. Blaine. Any other comments? We'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 7-0. Any other unfinished business?
Okay. I do have one more unfinished business, and it's because of the topic that was brought up earlier this evening about the curriculum and curriculum development. And we seem to have a little bit of not everyone online about the curriculum that is being brought forth. We have before us this year in this budget and we did receive an email with some budget numbers for the Future Teachers Academy. And I think that this program is something that is very valuable to our students in Spotsylvania County. Our students in Spotsylvania County, we do have students who just feel disjointed from school. And any of the, we have specialty centers. We have Career and Tech. We have Governor's School. We have ROTC, IB. Gateway Academy. We have multiple programs that are specialty centers here in Spotsylvania County. And I think that including a place where our students who have a possible desire to become a teacher is another outlet for our students. There is a major shortage in the nation for teachers, and having our own, growing our own, I love that thought, growing our own students to become future teachers in Spotsylvania County, I think is an awesome idea. So I am putting forth a motion for this board to approve the idea, curriculum, or whatever, the idea of the Future Teachers Academy and going forth with that program here in Spotsylvania County.
First of all, I want to make sure, I don't even, we need to get a question as to if that's even
It's not necessary.
the responsibility of this body.
It's not a role of
not.
our body.
It's a policy. We're a policy body. We're not an administrative body. And if Dr. Baker wants to have an academy with the money that we've allocated once the budget is adopted, and he can make that work, that's his business. I don't really believe that it's our business, and we want to stay focused on what we were elected to do, which is policy, and stay out of the administrative business. Like we no longer want, we don't want administrators in policy business, and they don't want us in their business. So I don't know if that motion would be appropriate, because I believe that it crosses the line. Dr. Meyer, did you want to say something? Or Ms. Grant? Ms. Grant?
I totally agree. We don't have any control over that, so.
If that is the case, then I will,
But can I add, though, that
Please
you
do.
missed the specialty
Dr. Baker,
center
go
that we
ahead.
are already? I guess not.
I'm sorry for what this has caused. The moving forward on the Future Educators Academy was, and I think I had shared some in December about how we've been able to move forward with various ideas. But I want to make sure a couple of things are clear. While we do in our development of the course catalog and program of studies each year, that is part of curriculum development, and not everything that is always in there goes to the board individually or directly, but certainly we do want the board's support, and we want your understanding of any programs or any curriculum that we're moving forward, including the related costs of that, as well as, in this particular case, what we would anticipate and hope would be substantial returns that would be way beyond any initial investment. But I also, if my poor choice of words and my enthusiasm a few weeks back, when Mr. Twigg brought this up, it was not to suggest that the board does not have substantial say or input, and I certainly would not want to move forward with anything without the board's support. I think our putting this as an opportunity for students was because of the good work our staff had done in developing what we thought was enough partnership capacity with resources, and probably, if all else fails, if there's no additional funding, that we would be able to find a way to do it within existing funding without compromising anything. I thought that I had made that clear, but I apologize to anyone if I hadn't. I had sent out an email this weekend also to try to make sure that folks could see at least where we were, and that includes transportation costs potentially. We also were looking at developing it at one center, not just because that's the whole specialty center concept. That was because we thought from a cost perspective we could move forward. And I do apologize if there's any sense that I would move forward without the support of this board, the majority of this board at least. And it was because I become concerned that with every year that passes and we have an opportunity to make something available for our students that, again, is not only going to benefit them in terms of their careers, it could substantially lower their costs going into college. It gives them a head start. It enables us to build that pipeline every year that we're not able to move forward. You know, my concern was that's another year we may not have those students. So I do believe, as I shared before, that it wasn't brought as a formal request with a budget item. Certainly if we have additional resources and we're able to look at reallocating different responsibilities, because if students begin to take advantage of the Future Educators Academy, just like if they take advantage of other types of programs, then that means if we have the same number of students, essentially, they're not going into something else, so that there may not be as much of a need for those things. So I'm providing this explanation because I know that I have been encouraged, and I appreciate the encouragement from the majority of this board to advance these very types of opportunities to, in alignment with our mission, to prepare our students for their future. And I felt like it was especially appropriate now amidst the shortage that we have highlighted over and over again. But make no mistake about it, I value all the board's input on it. And I'm sorry if there's been any confusion or if it has caused any problems in folks' decision-making.
Dr. Meyer.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak to this. Dr. Baker, I want to reinforce that I am wholly supportive of your efforts and your staff's efforts. And I'm deeply appreciated because you're willing to step out there and take a chance and look at something new and not be afraid to hear, someone who may think a little differently. just like we looked at the pilot program for after school, both tutorial and athletic, and working on call it pilot, call it whatever, for some way that we could do a little bit different way, but provide that service to our students, starting at the Spotsy High Zone, which covers 60-some% of the county. And that was quite a challenge, but we were able to arrive at a good working solution and looking at how we can continue to do something like that. The same thing I look at as what you've presented on a teacher academy. It is one more initiative, one more way of looking at something a little differently to address a need that we have and address it creatively in cooperation with our community college program, Mary Washington, and our students, and create a center, a place where that could be achieved. That can open up other opportunities down the road for other initiatives as we look to create more pathways and opportunities for our students. I see it as nothing other than, if we can do this, then we are offering something for our students that is unique. It's a savings for the parents. It's a head start for these students, and we're growing our own. We were doing it before when we did career switchers. There are other up-teen opportunities for this, and it can expand into more things. Specialty Center is nothing more than focusing on how we can address particular needs of our students. And I envision there are far more pathways when we take a look at career in tech and for our other students as we fulfill the dream of a profile of a Virginia graduate. This is one way to to create that profile for some of our students. Not all by any means, but I commend you. I know there are going to be risks, but if we don't try, we don't achieve anything. And I want to be able to say, yes, we were willing to look at it. We'll change as you, but I envision that as being your responsibility, and you're having the courage to bring it forward. We can react, and if you have the majority, which I wholeheartedly endorse, that I'm hoping that we clearly have a majority, and we move on. You included it in your budget. You clearly itemized it with the estimate of one teaching position. You quantified that. Transportation, until we know the true numbers, we can't really quantify it. And I know someone could say, well, if you can't quantify it, then you can't have it. Well, I look at it the other way. It's a work in progress. And if we can accomplish it, so much the better. So with that, you have my wholehearted support. I think it is moving in the right direction. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Just for clarification, I think the information that I'd share with the board over the weekend, again, right now we're estimating the 0.5 is not a full position, but a 0.5. And the reason that you said that's about a $33,000 investment. But if we are able, depending on who would be interested and qualified to teach it, there may be, again, as I talk about, we don't know shifting costs until we know who among our students is interested, who among our staff is interested, and as we make those decisions, we can only give estimates. But we'll be glad to provide what the final costs are in implementing it. But again, it was brought forth, or it was determined based on a passion to provide this for our students, based on encouragement, not only from students, but many parents who would like their children to have this opportunity. But I do want to end where I started. It was by no means, and I think Mr. Twigg understood that night that I was really just trying to have a spirited discussion, but I do appreciate everyone's input. It is not without everyone's input that we try to make good decisions for our students. But I do believe that the cost of waiting in this case was not worth what we could move forward, and that was the reason that we did move aggressively, especially once we had those partnerships solidified.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. Ms. Graham.
As I was clarifying earlier, I just had those 2 points to make. That first of all the questions that were asked were answered via email to this board before this budget vote. So that was not factual what was said on this dais earlier this evening. And the other claim that we have this new specialty center program since Dr. Baker is not factual at all. As we named earlier, the specialty centers were in place, most of them, before Dr. Baker got here. The ones that we already have, the vocational center, the Gateway Academy, REACH is one of the newer ones that was added. And all those weren't with a board vote. They were all, well, I think the vocational center was, because that required a lot of capital investment. But all those are programs that have been in existence in Spotsylvania and the county. This is not a new thing. We are just expanding on something. So I just want to reiterate, those are both falsehoods that were said from this dais tonight. So just want to clear that up.
Thank you. Any other, or you want to continue? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll continue. So I know, for me, that I sent out emails from me that were not completely answered. And in November 28th, the question I did have was for a response to get back to me or the board as a whole to let us know the transportation footprint. So that way parents know, this parent who has a child, son or daughter that wants to become a teacher and lives in Lee Hill, has to go to Chancellor High School. What does that look like and what does it cost? So that way the public knows. So that question was not answered for me, okay? And so if it was a change, maybe I worded it specialty food centers and now it's called academy, teacher program, Future Teachers of America. It's a change. It's a change that wasn't brought here to a vote. That is my truth, and that's all I'm going to share. Thanks.
Thank you. Is that, that's the, is there any other old business? Any other old business?
No, the only thing I would say is I apologize to Ms.
I want to shut this.
I just wanted to let Ms. Phelps, I apologize if that wasn't answered, and I think you may have stepped out, but we will definitely, once we know what that cost is, we will provide it in a concrete fashion to the board. I think we may want to see if we're able to use an existing shuttle, which might impact the cost, and we would certainly work with all the families of the students who are interested in the program and knowing both the cost and the logistics of that potential transportation.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. Is there any other new old business?
There's still a motion on the board, though, so on the floor, so I would have to. It wasn't seconded, so we're
That
good.
motion is inappropriate to make a motion. We don't have the power or the authority to make that motion, so we're going to continue.
I'd just like to comment on that, make a quick statement. I'd like to put that item on next month's agenda. And if you guys are going to put costs together, I urge you to go through me and consult me as you put those costs together. Else we're going to have a hefty, intense discussion.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. We are going to have a discussion about a workshop. We can have a discussion about that in the workshop. As a board, we will get the information that we need to get as a board. We'll make a decision that we need to make as a board that pertains to our authority. We will not, as a board, because we're a policy board, make decisions that are inherently or applied specifically for the superintendent to make. That's the only thing that I was trying to address. That's why I said the motion, we could not proceed with that because we don't have the authority to make that.
I would like to call everybody's attention to your point, because this is under the umbrella of a budget, which we spend a month talking about, not going through.
We just voted for the budget.
Right.
The FTE is in there. So we're not going to have that discussion right now because we voted for the budget. The budget passed
In
5-2.
that context, please,
And so if we want to have some dialogue in a workshop where we can have some back and forth in a constructive way, I'm all ears for that.
Okay.
But I think like I told Ms. Shelley, who brought the motion up, the motion was improper. So that's why we're not going to entertain it any longer.
So when's the next?
Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that if we can get to new business.
All right, well, let's have one so we can discuss
so
it
let's
in its proper place.
So let's move on. Any new business? Any new business? Okay, first, Ms. Phelps first.
I had it on my board member comments, but it would be just a suggestion to, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just heard you cut me off again, so I'm
Hold
just
on.
making sure.
Hold on.
Mr. Chairman, it's
Well,
supposed to be a
hold on.
motion.
This is what's going to happen. We all allow the person that the chair has addressed to speak, and that's the only person that needs to speak. When that person's finished speaking, if we have something else to say, the chair will recognize you. Ms. Phelps, you have
Point
the
of
floor.
order,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, all I said is, needs to be a motion. It's new business.
Suggestion.
You
Okay,
can't have a
but she
suggestion
has-
in new
but-
business.
But she hasn't even stated what she wants to talk about.
She just said she has a suggestion. She needs to make a motion. It's new business.
Okay,
It's not comments.
okay.
Okay.
Please
so-
make your motion.
So, here's a motion to assist with the time crunch and calendar coordination efforts in the future. I'm asking that this board puts aside a Saturday to have a work session, okay? So take the suggestion out there. I'm making a motion to have a Saturday work session. Other schools around local schools do it, and that's what I'm asking for.
Okay, so let's look at this. Okay, we have a motion on the floor for a work session. It was something that was getting ready to lead into a discussion about our future work session. I wanted to make a motion that we meet on Monday the 18th or Monday the 25th. So we have Monday the 18th, Monday the 25th, and Ms. Phelps is recommending a motion to consider a Saturday. So there's a motion on the floor that we really need to have a workshop. And let's have a motion on the floor for the workshop first, then we'll determine the date. So I make a motion that we have a workshop in the near term to discuss not only the issue that Ms. Phelps brought up, which was about the calendar, but also the issue of redistricting.
Are you saying February or March?
February. February 18th, February 25th, or, and ideally before March.
I'll
because-
second that.
Okay, so we have it's been moved that we have a workshop and to discuss the calendar and to discuss redistricting.
And
the
Dr. Baker's specialty schools.
Okay, and we will receive a
Project,
presentation.
program, whatever you
Will
wanna
you be
call
able
it.
to provide data on that, Dr. Baker? Or is that something that we need to push off to a later date?
It's certainly up to the board if that's something else that you'd
That's-
like to discuss that same evening.
You're capable of doing that, okay?
Yes.
So the motion is to discuss the calendar, redistricting, and the specialty center or the Educators Academy. So it's been moved by myself, seconded by Ms. Phelps. Discussion.
Yeah, make it a weeknight, and make sure that the specialty programs is included. That's
Okay,
all I have.
so you just said a
suggest.
weeknight, Ms. Grant?
The 18th or the 25th is fine with me.
25th is fine with you, Mr. Blaine?
I don't have my calendar with me, I can't tell you.
You could,
Just set it. and we'll-
you're pretty,
I will be there unless there's some absolute impossibility.
okay. And Ms. Phelps?
Yeah, I'll be there.
So is the 18th or the 25th, or which one's best for you?
Oh, I had a choice. 25th is good.
25th? And you said 25th, right?
I said either one.
Either one, either one.
A time would be helpful.
Okay, 25th. And,
Mr. Braswell, because I work, I need to know what time
we were 6:30,
looking at.
6:30,
6:30.
yeah. Yeah.
Maybe 6, 5:30, 6.
Is it, because it could be, is it going to go, like, how, do we have a
Well, maybe
time
we need
frame?
some more time. How about 6? Is 6 good for everyone?
We've done all day workshops before, so.
We're not trying to do that, yeah. Well, is,
8 hours from 6:30, that was going to be pretty.
yeah, so is 6 o'clock good for everyone? So we'll say the 25th of February, 6 o'clock, workshop. Dr. Meyer?
I'd like to add to that agenda.
What's that?
another item, and that would be two items, really. How we handle requests, by this board to the superintendent for information, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is, because I participated funded through VSBA as a federal relations liaison person for VSBA, that I attended the NSBA Advocacy Institute. I would like to see us look at my specific question is, what are the costs for this school division to be part of NSBA? And if that information could come back to us, so that we could have a discussion about it. Because I think it is important that we have a say-so when it's going to be talking about the reauthorization of IDEA, which we know federal funding is only at 10%, and if they're going to talk about reauthorization, and it was last reauthorized in 2004, if we're looking truly serious about trying to get additional monies to help us as a locality, we need the feds to step up. And that's part of the discussion I had with 4 legislators, that meeting that I missed, but it was with that main topic. And I think we have to be at the table. To do that, we have to be part of NSBA. I don't think we are. We were at one time, but I'd like to have information to know what does it cost for us to be part of it, and can we have that on the agenda?
Okay, I'll accept the friendly amendment to that motion to include those items. So we have a motion on the floor.
Chair, could I add something to the agenda as well? Or
What's that?
could we just make sure that legal is there to advise?
Absolutely, yes. And so with that being said, we have a motion to have a workshop on the 25th of February at 6 o'clock here to discuss calendar, discuss redistricting, discuss Teachers Academy, to discuss NSBA and reporting from board members. So it should be a pretty ambitious agenda. We'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 7-0. Please, go ahead, ma'am.
For new business, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, that Mrs. Trampy invited us as board members to an informational forum. It was a forum with talking about human trafficking. And it's actually very heartbreaking when you hear all of this, when you hear the stories. And it's here. It's here. The biggest human trafficking bust in Virginia was made in the Fredericksburg region. So that includes us. So what I am asking is, I would like to see Spotsylvania County sponsor another forum or something informative for the public, but I want it to be regional. So we get our schools with our sheriff's department. We include Spotsylvania. With Spotsylvania, we include Stafford. We include Fredericksburg. We include Caroline. We could include King George. Whomever we wanted to try to include, and do something together with Spotsylvania, sheriff, and schools, with some of the other localities, to come together to have this informational forum. And I'm looking at maybe right before school gets out or right after school gets out is what I would like to do. Because with summer coming, I think our parents and our students need to be aware of what is happening in this area with this human trafficking. And the warning signs. There was a parent there. There was a mom there whose daughter was an amazing straight A student, and then she got pulled into this human trafficking ring, and it just blew up the whole family. So I just think we don't want that to happen to our kids. I hope it's not happening to our kids. but I think it's something that we as a community really need to come together to support. So I am asking for a motion that at least we have staff, sorry, I'm putting this on you, Dr. Baker, you and your staff, to look into what it would take to put together this type of community service for the area so that we would be able to help the children and students of our,
So
of our region.
your motion is asking for staff to do research, not to actually
To
conduct it yet.
I want to, but we need to see, I can't put that on them by emotion. That's too much work. What I would like them to do is see what is out there, if this is something that is a possibility to get done before the end of the school year or right after school gets out. If it is not something that is possible for our staff to be able to organize, then I would ask that maybe we would do it sometime soon, but I would like this to be done.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I share your passion, but I want to make sure, because it doesn't sound like something that's just going to involve the school staff. That when you're talking about something like that, you're bringing in outside agencies, and we have to see if they're available. We have to see if the sheriff department's available. We have to see if social services are available. All those have to be tied in. So if you're making the motion as a study group to see what it would take in order to do that, I would be fully supportive. If it's to all of a sudden lead something of that magnitude without knowing those costs, I would not be. But it's not because I don't agree with that. I just think that that's a very large undertaking.
It's a large undertaking, and that's why I would like staff to do it. I don't see there being any charges. I don't think it would cost anything except for the use of a school auditorium, because everyone else would be volunteers. And I have connections with, Mrs. Trampy to be able to maybe help us get this organized if this is something that the board is in favor of, at least having our staff look into the possibility of doing this.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to have staff conduct research as to the feasibility of hosting a regional human trafficking commission, if you will? Is that?
Informational session.
An informational session, okay. Dr. Meyer?
I would second that motion because it coincides with what we heard from our social workers and the crisis and what our social workers are dealing with. And if we can be more proactive, I think it does behoove us to at least look into what Ms. Shelley is requesting so that we are better prepared, and our social workers are an absolute resource and a big help to try to address this problem.
Okay, so it's been properly moved and second. Is there any other opinions or comments? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 7-0. Any other new business?
I move to adjourn.
We have a motion. We have a motion to move to adjournment. Do we have a second by Ms. Phelps? All in favor? Aye. This meeting is adjourned.